Mamaya Yuto is a tired salesman working for a small, harsh company. His everyday life feels suffocating. He works outside even in unbearable heat, forced to wear a suit because his stubborn superior insists on it. He regrets not taking his car, even if it meant paying for gas himself. His company functions like a typical black corporation obsessed with passion pay, squeezing effort while giving almost nothing in return. He wants to quit, but he never feels confident that another company would hire him. That lack of confidence traps him, so he keeps working even though he hates it. He tries to stay positive, convincing himself that even his meager paycheck is enough to handle the bills. At home, his small escape comes from his bookshelf. He recently discovered a new book about protagonists who get transported to another world and become overpowered. Reading those stories has become his hobby. He remembers how he used to love fantasy games long ago. Tales where plain-looking characters gain cheat abilities and accomplish incredible feats always make him feel refreshed. A part of him even jokes internally, asking a goddess to take him to another world, though he laughs it off immediately. After indulging in that small dream, he prepares to return to work, expecting another ordinary day. But everything changes in an instant. Without warning, something pulls him out of his normal life. He senses a presence, almost like a ghost. A strange figure appears and speaks as if the situation is completely natural. The being apologizes for dragging him into this place and calmly states an intention to send him to another world. Mamaya freezes. His mind races. The entire scenario feels exactly like the beginning of an isekai story. He even wonders whether the acorn-shaped haired figure in front of him is some kind of god. He immediately denies the possibility, telling himself he must have collapsed from heat stroke and is simply dreaming. However, the being states that this is not a dream, and that Mamaya has been pulled into this space deliberately. The being then reveals that the world Mamaya will be sent to is a true fantasy world, complete with weapons, magic, and skills. Mamaya's sense of disbelief nearly overwhelms him. If this is real, he wonders whether he might at least receive cheat skills. But the being rejects the idea right away, saying no such thing will be given. Mamaya panics. Being sent to a dangerous world without any special abilities feels like suicide. He immediately begs to be returned to his original world. He searches for an exit, determined to treat this as a hallucination. Yet the being insists that he will be going regardless, explaining that Mamaya's deep dissatisfaction with his current life is what made this encounter possible in the first place. The words hit him hard. He realizes the being has seen the truth he never admits out loud. As a student, he spent all his time immersed in virtual worlds, escaping reality. It is not that he dislikes the idea of an isekai adventure, he simply wants to avoid a future where he dies powerless and meaninglessly. His frustration rises. Inwardly, he curses the being, calling it a foolish director controlling a ridiculous script. If he is going to be forced into another world, he decides he will demand cheat abilities no matter what. He has no training in martial arts, no experience in magic, and no familiarity with survival skills. His body is soft and unfit. He cannot imagine what someone like him is supposed to achieve in a dangerous fantasy world. Fear creeps in, and he begins to suspect that the being might enjoy sending powerless people to their deaths. He insists that, if he is sent as he is now, he will definitely die. He asks whether the being intends to watch him die in vain. The being denies having such intentions and then considers helping him. Mamaya waits desperately. The being decides to grant him a younger body. Mamaya impulsively asks to be made 0 years old, but the being rejects the idea an infant cannot survive. He asks instead for the age of 13, and the being accepts. He then asks for a skill or blessing. The being complains that he is asking for too much, but Mamaya insists that without any skill he will still die. The being finally agrees to give him a single ability as a special exception. Mamaya will be able to see his status screen at will, a handmade blessing the being expects him to appreciate. Mamaya immediately asks what else will be added, but the being tells him that this is all he will receive. Frustration floods him. A status screen alone does not feel like a cheat skill. Nothing has genuinely improved for him. Before he can protest further, the being initiates the transfer. Mamaya panics and tries to resist, but the being dismisses his cries with tired irritation. As the world around him begins to distort, the being makes one final remark. Despite Mamaya's doubts, he will become the most blessed existence in that world. Whether he grows, awakens, prospers, or is destroyed will depend entirely on the choices he makes once he arrives. Mamaya reflects on what happened. God sent him into a forest like this. He is an RPG player, not someone used to survival games, but he knows this is not the time to complain. God made him younger, and that fact still bothers him. He wonders if he was too greedy during the negotiation. He believes he could have handled it better. For a moment, he thought everything was going in his favor, but in the end, God only made him younger and gave him a status screen. He understands that this is the limit of what he can gain when negotiating with someone of much higher status. Still, he finds a small comfort in knowing that he managed to receive something special. He chooses to think that way to calm himself. Now that he is already here, he knows he cannot give up so easily. He feels urgency rise inside him. He needs to find a place to sleep before night falls. He also needs water, food, and something to start a fire. There is no time to waste. He decides to check everything he currently carries. He finds a flashlight with batteries, a wallet, a seal stamp, Phillips and flathead screwdrivers, a calculator, memo pads, ballpoint pens, a plastic board, and several contract papers. He judges that the screwdrivers can serve as weapons if needed. Moving in leather shoes feels difficult, but he believes he can manage somehow. Even his clothes may need to be adjusted. He accepts this harsh reality. He resolves to struggle until the very end and silently directs that resolve toward the acorn head god who sent him here. Mamiya notices a white circle at the edge of his vision. He feels curious and wonders if it is a button. He focuses on it, and the status screen appears at once. The screen fills his view and blocks almost everything in front of him. He feels surprised. He realizes that he can control it with his mind, which feels convenient, but he also feels annoyed. The screen is too big and covers most of his sight. He checks the display and sees his name, Mamiya Yuto, Level 1. Below it, he notices an empty bar. He understands that his blessing and title sections are also empty. Mamiya feels amazed as he looks at the status screen. He sees many categories of skills such as combat, magic, support, passive, and even creation. Just at a glance, he notices more than 100 types. Each skill has a bar that shows whether he has unlocked it or not. Some skills clearly have higher versions that will unlock once certain conditions are met. The whole system feels very similar to a game status screen, and it is easy for him to understand. At the top, he notices some numbers and assumes they represent his current skill points. He does not yet know how to earn those points, but he understands that skills start from 0 and grow over time. With that in mind, he decides to carefully record his initial status. Mamiya notices a monster. He realizes that he focused too much on the skill list and ignored his surroundings. Tension fills his body. He wonders what he should do. The monster looks like one that appears in the early stage, but Mamiya has never fought before. Doubt rises as he questions whether he can defeat it. Even so, he forces himself to observe it carefully and predict its movements. The monster stands about 30 to 40 centimeters tall. Its size is slightly larger than a rabbit. Mamiya understands that a direct hit could kill him from shock alone. Even if he survives the blow, he has no first aid medicine, so the injury would still lead to death. He decides that safety must come first. He studies the monster and wonders if its horn is its weapon. He predicts that it will attack by charging straight at him. The monster suddenly runs faster than he expected. Mamiya feels alarm, but he realizes that if he blocks its vision, it will struggle to hit him accurately. He accepts the loss and sacrifices his custom-made suit. As expected, the monster charges at him. Mamiya follows through with his plan. He grits his teeth as the monster keeps moving. He gathers his courage and strikes, trusting the strength of his necktie. He reminds himself that the tie is sturdy and expensive. After the impact, he pauses and looks closely. He wonders if the monster is finally dead. Mamiya does not feel any joy from his first victory. He knows this is not the time to relax. Urgency fills his mind as he thinks about finding a place to sleep before night fully falls. His eyes land on a tall tree and he wonders if he can climb it. He judges the height and realizes that if his hands cannot reach, he can use his belt to help. He thinks about how buying good, sturdy items as an office worker finally has meaning here. Mamiya pushes his young body forward and gathers all his strength. He climbs the tree with effort, telling himself to move and not give up. From above, he still cannot see the edge of the forest. A city is nowhere in sight. Frustration rises as he curses the acorn head god in his mind, feeling as if he was thrown here just to die. He recalls the god's careless reassurance that everything would be fine. Mamiya looks into the distance and remembers the direction he was told. Beyond the forest lies a river, past the mountains, and then a flat land where a settlement might exist. The thought does not bring comfort. Despair weighs heavily on him. Too many problems stand in his way, and every step feels dangerous. Even so, a faint feeling stirs inside him. It feels like his future has opened just a little. He grips that feeling tightly. Mamiya steals his resolve and decides to push forward. No matter what, he will cross this sea of trees. Mamiya wakes up after a long and uncomfortable night on top of a tree. The idea of a happy life in another world fades like a dream. His body aches, and he misses his soft bed. When morning comes, Mamiya gathers his thoughts and decides what to do next. He chooses to look for a river. Along the way, he plans to gather food. If he finds nothing, he still has the horned rabbit as emergency food. He checks the time using his multifunction watch. The watch has an orientation function and a built-in compass. Its usefulness surprises him. He wonders why he did not think of using it sooner, then understands that small things are easy to forget in desperate moments. The wisdom of the modern world still helps him. As he moves forward, he notices birds and their eggs. They look edible. Doubt crosses his mind, but hunger pushes him forward. He decides to take as many as he can and feels encouraged as he continues. Curiosity leads him to check his status. Something new appears. Gathering food gives him experience. An experience bar also appears on his taijutsu skill. It grows from defeating the horned rabbit and from gathering. He understands that repeating related actions increases skill levels. Excitement fills him. This world truly works like a game, and that thought gives him hope. Survival now feels possible. His attention then shifts to something ahead. Unlike the horned rabbit, this presence is clearly humanoid. Confidence rises within him, and he believes he will not lose. The figure becomes clear. It is a goblin. The goblin charges at him, strikes him hard, and knocks him away before he can react. Mamiya crashes into the ground as blood splashes. The goblin attacks without mercy. Mamiya realizes he is too naive. He is only level 1 and his status is lower than the goblins. Goblins are not NPCs that give easy experience. They are living creatures that attack with full hostility and try to kill. He understands that he must abandon careless thinking and fight with the intent to kill. Mamiya grips his knife and thrusts it into the goblin. Pain spreads through his body, and he accepts the outcome. He understands that this happens because he overestimated himself. The fight could have gone better if he had used a surprise attack. He hopes his wound does not grow worse. He understands clearly that this is not a game and that he must be more careful. Something feels wrong near the place where the goblin falls. He knows that humans can die easily in this world. Dark mist spreads among the trees. Mamiya senses danger and turns, but something strikes him from behind. He crashes to the ground and coughs in pain. A round mole monster jumps out of the soil with a strange cry. At first, Mamiya thinks it looks cute, then fear hits him because it just attacked. He wonders how it attacked and hears it cry Mokyo. He suspects it is some kind of magic. Panic rises because he is already within the enemy's range and does not understand the attack. He can only guard himself. Even with the damage reduced by hitting his back, the power feels strong. He knows that repeated hits would kill him. Mamiya realizes he cannot keep defending and is not confident he can dodge. He decides to move forward instead. The mole tries to attack again, but Mamiya defeats it before the attack lands. The system notifies him that his level increases to 2. He reaches level 2 and understands one clear truth. This world is extremely harsh. Sleeping on the tree does not remove his exhaustion. Fighting a goblin and a mole one after another puts heavy strain on his body, and the wounds make it worse. He realizes that he must wash his injuries. His body smells bad and the discomfort becomes unbearable. He also notices that he has not drunk enough water and feels close to his limit. He moves forward and finally finds water. Relief fills him as he confirms it is safe. He kneels down and drinks deeply. The thirst fades. He checks the surroundings and notices fish and signs of small animals. He sets a simple fish trap that is easy to enter and hard to escape. He feels satisfied with the result. With water secured, fish nearby, and meat already on hand, he decides the next step. Now is the time to learn fire magic, returns to his sleeping place and hopes it will be enough for the night. He looks at the 2 points he gained from leveling up and decides to use both of them on fire magic. He selects the skill and adds the points. Fire magic level 1 unlocks. The description appears. Able to cast fire magic using less than 10 magic power. Excitement rises, but confusion follows right away. He expects a clear spell, something like firing a fireball at an enemy. He tries to use the skill. Nothing happens. He tries again and calls out fireball. Still nothing. He wonders if he needs to activate it differently. He changes his hand position and tries again. Nothing changes. Frustration builds as he stares at the screen. Those 2 points took real effort to earn. He forces himself to calm down and think carefully. He remembers the mole using magic earlier. When it attacked, a black mist appeared around it. He assumes that mist was magic power. That thought explains why he cannot activate his own magic. He also notices that the skill description says nothing about automatic casting. He has not learned any incantation skill either. One answer becomes clear. Fire magic at this level needs a chant. He decides to follow the customs of this world. He raises his voice and tries chanting. He calls out to the fire spirit and asks for its power while attempting to form a fireball. Nothing happens. He tries again, changing his words. He repeats the chant, begging the fire spirit for help. Still nothing works. Frustration settles in. He realizes that chanting in katakana changes nothing. Fire magic likely requires chanting in this world's language, which he does not know. With no other options left, he gives up for now. He accepts that fire magic will have to wait. He desperately tries to use fire magic again. He raises his hands and calls out for fire to activate. He shouts for a fireball and begs the fire spirit to lend him its power. He repeats the word fire again and again, hoping for a response. In the end, he even calls out Mokyo, copying the sound he heard earlier, but nothing happens. He gives up on fire magic and decides to forget about it completely. He tells himself that fire magic is not something he understands yet, and he stops thinking about it. He chooses to sleep instead and eats grilled fish and grilled rabbit. He wishes he could cook properly with fire magic, but he accepts that he has no choice for now. He notices a goblin nearby and realizes that he is slowly getting used to danger. He decides not to worry about fire magic anymore. He feels afraid of parasites, but he accepts that eating raw fish is possible. He understands that he cannot live like this forever. He needs to find a settlement and leave this survival life behind. He thinks about what he truly wants. He does not want to live in a survival game. He wants to adventure, grow stronger, and enjoy this world. At that moment, the system notifies him that his level increases to 3. He learns a new skill called Rush Level 1. He feels confused at first because he does not see it in the combat skill list. He searches again and finally finds it. The system explains the skill. Rush costs 5 magic power. Rush allows him to charge forward at 130% of his normal speed. The maximum distance is 5 meters. He feels satisfied because this is the kind of skill he has been waiting for. He decides to test it right away. He tries to use Rush while standing still, but nothing happens. He remembers the trouble he had with fire magic and moves forward instead. The skill activates instantly. His body surges ahead with sudden speed, and he understands that this is a real skill. He notices that his magic power decreases when he uses Rush. He also realizes that he does not need to shout the skill name. He thinks the skill is not very useful yet, but he believes it will work well for surprise attacks. The only problem he notices is that his shoes come off when he uses Rush. He finds a very good place to sleep for the night. A river flows nearby and fruit trees grow close to it. The place is high enough that goblins cannot reach it. The comfort feels much better than the places he used before. He realizes that he can use this spot as a base. He checks his status again. He notices that his stats increase by 3 every time he levels up. He thinks about the maximum level being 99. If that is true, his final stats would reach around 300. He wonders if he would become extremely strong at that point. He looks at his skills and thinks carefully. Fire magic depends on intelligence. Rush depends on agility. His status clearly affects how his skills grow. That means his choices will shape his future strength. He decides not to think about fire magic anymore. He then realizes something strange about Rush. He did not learn it from defeating monsters. He understands that Rush is a skill he automatically learned when he reached level 3. He thinks about his other abilities and estimates their growth. He believes his stick technique is around 20%. His swimming is around 1%. His shield technique is about 2%. His earth magic feels close to 20%. His presence detection seems around 23%. He notices other small improvements too. Searching increases slightly. Fishing improves a bit. Water techniques grow slowly. His tolerance also rises little by little. He realizes that defeating monsters and living actively improves many things at once. That feels very beneficial. He looks at the long list of skills available. Magic, gathering, sword techniques, cooking, and forging all reach up to level 10. Many of these skills can help in daily life, not just in battle. He thinks about the people of this world. They probably learn skills based on how they want to live. He remembers what he gained after playing for 6 years. He reached the top on every server and people called him the God of Cessation. The title feels empty now. That life cost him his place in college, and it pushed him out of his parents' home. Even so, those days remain the most enjoyable time of his life. He realizes something unsettling. This world suits him too well. The excitement feels the same as before, and that scares him. He reminds himself that he is an adult now. He believes he has already moved on from that life. He does not want to throw everything away and lose himself again. Still, he allows himself one small wish. Just for today, he wants a good dream. He calls this method the pebble bait strategy. He no longer feels afraid of the moles, he throws a pebble and the mole appears. That is how the strategy works. A pebble is required, but the method is simple and effective. By defeating moles this way, he gains good experience in earth magic and presence detection. Compared to fighting goblins with his bare hands, this gives better results. He remembers that he once met a goblin that used a stick and wonders if it was a rare monster. He questions whether it was truly a goblin or a different creature. A sudden sound reaches his ears. He hears a human voice. He feels alarmed and wonders if someone is under attack. He cannot tell if it is a woman or a child, but he decides to investigate. As he moves closer, he notices a mole that has not detected him yet. The mole blocks his path. He pauses and remembers that moles come out of the ground. He stays alert. Soon, he sees them. 3 children stand ahead. At the same time, he spots a goblin holding a sword. He has avoided fighting multiple goblins until now, but he cannot ignore the situation. He does not want to watch anyone die in front of him. He decides to help. One of the boys, Zinc, calls out and takes charge. Zinc plans to handle 2 goblins and asks Mamiya to deal with the last one. Mamiya feels confused for a moment but understands the intent. He agrees and prepares himself. He reminds himself that victory belongs to the one who strikes first. He stays focused. 1 goblin remains. By now, he is used to this kind of danger. He shifts his attention to the sword-wielding goblin. The attack hits him hard, but he endures it. Nearby, a young boy manages to defeat a goblin without being noticed. Mamiya realizes what is about to happen. If this continues, the boy will land the final blow. Mamiya feels a surge of urgency. He apologizes silently and moves in. He refuses to let the kill be taken. He strikes down the goblin himself. At that moment, the system notifies him. His level increases to 6. He reflects that this system feels just like one used in MMORPGs, where the one who deals the final blow receives the reward. If experience truly exists in this world, then the same rule likely applies here as well. The goblin he defeated was a rare sword-wielding type, and his greed pushed him to act without thinking. Mamiya feels uneasy. He finally meets locals, yet he behaves badly. He worries that they might hate him for it, but that concern quickly fades. He cannot understand what they are saying at all. He pauses and looks at them, wondering if they can understand his words. He gestures for them to wait and focuses inward. He checks the system and realizes the problem immediately. He cannot communicate because he lacks language comprehension. He finds the skill called Otherworld Language Comprehension and decides to learn it. At level 1, it allows understanding similar to a 5-year-old child and does not allow reading or writing. Mamiya feels frustrated. He ends up with the language ability of a small child and feels irritated that the acorn-head god did not grant this skill from the start. He catches himself and calms down. He is standing in front of children after all. He decides to raise the skill by 1 more level. The improvement raises comprehension to the level of an 8-year-old child and stays active at all times with no magic cost. He realizes he has used up all his free points and feels a bit regretful. He steadies himself, apologizes for startling them, and signals that he can now understand simple words. He feels relieved when they respond. The children react with surprise. One of them wonders if he prayed to the goddess, since they have never seen anyone gain skills outside the church. Mamiya wonders aloud if they live nearby. Zinc explains that they come from a nearby town called Bizarre Town. They entered the forest to hunt horned rabbits but ran into goblins instead. Zinc grows annoyed and explains that Pota ran deeper into the forest. Pota immediately defends himself, insisting that he followed the rules and ran straight as instructed. May admits she followed him because she believed Zinc could handle the situation. Zinc snaps back, overwhelmed, and admits that facing a sword-wielding goblin is impossible, so of course he would run. Mamiya listens and feels strangely reassured. They are loud, messy, and clumsy, but they feel real. The world feels exciting, almost like a game. Yet one mistake here would mean death. Until now, he distracted himself from that fear, wandering without survival knowledge or guidance. Standing here with children from a town grounds him. May notices his silence and checks if he is all right. He reassures her and admits that he got lost, so meeting them brings him relief. He wonders if they can return to Bazaar Town before sunset. Zinc considers it carefully. He thinks they can move fast enough to escape the forest before nightfall, though Pota is slowed by the heavy basket he carries. Mamiya agrees and urges everyone to leave immediately. Darkness is approaching. He adds that he still has his flashlight, so reaching the forest entrance in time should be possible. The children react with excitement. Zinc becomes curious and wonders if it is a magic item. May feels confident in her earlier suspicion and comments that Mamiya must be an aristocrat, especially since his clothes look strange. Mamiya cuts off the chatter, feeling pressed by time, and asks Zinc to lead the way. Zinc agrees and explains that he can see the Sare River, which gives him their direction. Following the river would slow them down, so he decides they should cut through the forest instead. Mamiya agrees and they move out together. Zinc urges everyone to move and calls out to Pota, asking him to lend over the sword. He makes it clear that there is no time to keep using knives anymore. Right now, they do not have the luxury to collect magic stones or monster body parts. Zinc lightly swings the sword and checks the sharpness of the blade. Mamiya listens and wonders about magic stones and monster materials. He becomes curious and wonders if they usually collect those items to sell. Zinc agrees easily and explains that magic stones found in this forest are small and not worth much. But for beginners like them, they still matter. May looks surprised and reacts as if Mamiya does not know about magic stones at all. May assumes he must be rich and jokes that he probably never sold them before. She teases him by calling him a corporate slave and laughs at how impressive the name sounds, jokingly wondering if he takes care of wonderful creatures. Mamiya quickly denies it and makes it clear that he is not a noble at all. Instead, he describes himself as a low-class corporate slave. Mamiya then wonders about the word us that May used and asks if that means they are acting as a party. May agrees and explains their roles without hesitation. Zinc handles the hunting, she focuses on gathering, and Pota carries their supplies. She urges everyone to keep moving. May adds that herbs and fruits can be sold in town. Mamiya wonders if they are afraid of entering a forest filled with monsters. May admits that it is scary but explains that her family runs a pharmacy. Some people rely on magic to treat injuries while medicine for illness is expensive and difficult to sell. Because of that, she pushes herself to help earn money. Mamiya listens quietly, feeling overwhelmed by her determination and thinks it is Zinc. He calls her May-chan in his thoughts. Mamiya notices Pota lagging behind and encourages him to hang in there, suggesting they slow down if he is exhausted. Pota apologizes for being slow and admits that he never struggled when helping his family in the fields. But now he feels clumsy. He jokes that he plans to pray for better language comprehension next time he visits the goddess. May reacts with disbelief and teases him for still struggling despite his farming background. The mood lightens when Mamiya wonders aloud if there is something above the trees. Zinc immediately corrects him and points out that the danger is below. He explains that moles are sensitive to sound and that making noise can force them to surface if they are nearby. Mamiya feels impressed by Zinc's knowledge and acknowledges it. Zinc laughs lightly and shares that his father taught him these things because he was a hunter. Mamiya wonders if Zinc plans to go on an adventure in the future. Zinc dismisses the idea for now and says that even if he does, it would only be to the Raka Plains someday. He admits that strong monsters live there, so it is a goal for the far future. Zinc then shares that he lives alone with his mother and feels the need to grow stronger quickly to support his family. Mamiya reflects silently. Pota sacrifices his study time to work hard in the fields. May risks her life by entering the forest to earn money for her family. Zinc prepares to inherit a dangerous job to support his mother. They are all about the same age as Mamiya's current body. He realizes that struggles like these are normal in this world and understands why they might mistake him for a noble. Zinc suddenly realizes that they never properly introduced themselves. He mentions that he already knows Mamiya's name because it slipped out earlier in the chaos. Mamiya feels slightly embarrassed and apologizes for the late introduction. He introduces himself as Loki. The three children repeat the name together, stunned. Zinc reacts in disbelief and connects the name to the Demon Lord. The realization shocks all three of them, and silence follows. The name Mamiya chose was once famous in a game he had been deeply obsessed with. It belonged to the strongest player and was the same name he had used himself. He has no intention of revealing that he came from another world, and he also decides to hide the status screen granted by the acorn-headed being. He never felt the need to fake his name. The excitement he feels whenever his level rises and his fixation on landing the final blow still cling to him. The sheer variety of skills, combat, magic, support, passive, and even creation, keep stirring that excitement inside him. Since arriving in this world, those familiar feelings resurface again and again. That is why the name felt right at the time, though embarrassment finally catches up to him now. A demon lord. He feels unsettled and wonders how things ended up this way. Zinc reacts with surprise and feels confused about how Mamiya can be neither an aristocrat nor a demon lord at the same time. May joins in, recalling stories that describe demon lords as figures dressed entirely in black, which matches Mamiya's appearance. Mamiya's thoughts begin to race. If there is a story about a demon lord, does that mean one does not exist yet? The idea makes him uneasy. For a moment, he wonders if the acorn-headed being brought him here to fill that role, then quickly dismisses the thought as going too far. Zinc lightly mocks him for dressing like Loki as well. Mamiya shifts the topic and wonders aloud about the story itself. Zinc finds it strange that Mamiya does not know it despite his appearance. The story speaks of a demon lord born from darkness who ruled over monsters while shrouded in black. A hero descended from the light and defeated him with holy power. Zinc recalls it as a heroic tale about a man named Takuya. Mamiya recognizes it as a familiar demon lord and hero story, but the name makes him pause. Takuya. Zinc seems unsure of the details, but Mamiya recalls that the hero is said to be a prince of some country. Zinc adds that the hero came from another world, and May agrees, remembering that he appeared suddenly and defeated the demon lord. The pieces fall into place, and Mamiya realizes that Takuya was a powerful otherworlder. A bitter feeling rises in his chest as the image of the acorn-headed being returns to his mind, granting powerful abilities to others while giving him almost nothing. Mamiya quietly wonders if there are more people from other worlds. Zinc thinks back and recalls his father mentioning something like that long ago. May smiles and shares her wish to meet someone from another world someday, imagining she might find one in the royal capital. Mamiya reflects silently, knowing she already has. Zinc quickly cuts the idea short, pointing out that they do not have the money to travel that far. Zinc suddenly notices a mole ahead and moves without hesitation. Another appears to the right and he takes charge of it, signaling the others. He urges Pota to hide and motions for May to stay back. Mamiya watches as they move naturally, each acting according to their role. Their coordination feels smooth and familiar. A memory surfaces of game parties where people supported each other, shared rewards evenly, and enjoyed the journey together. Back then, Mamiya had watched from afar, focused only on efficiency and results. The thought lingers in his mind. Companions, friends. He wonders what kind of path awaits him in this world. Soon they escape the area safely, and relief spreads among them as the danger passes. Zinc confirms that the road ahead is safe. May shows her relief, and Mamiya helps by taking the heavy basket from Pota and carrying it himself. Before long, a town comes into view. May smiles brightly and welcomes them to Bazaar Town, expressing how glad she is that Mamiya, known to them as Loki, was with them. Mamiya quietly notes how quickly everything has unfolded. A guard at the gate notices them and wonders why Zinc, Pata, and May are out so late. After hearing what happened, he feels grateful toward Mamiya for saving them. Mamiya humbly reflects that he was also lost in the forest and that they simply helped each other. The guard brings up the report of a sword-wielding goblin. Mamiya acknowledges it and shows him the goblin's sword. The guard inspects it and observes that there is no rust and that the blade is still in good condition, suggesting it is fairly new. Realizing how exhausted they must be, the guard apologizes for stopping them and welcomes Mamiya into Bazaar Town as well. Zinc tries to hand the sword to Mamiya, but Mamiya refuses and insists that Zinc keep it, feeling that the sword is too long for him and that Zinc saved him as well. Zinc disagrees, feeling that this would not be fair and admitting that he cannot use the sword either. The guard interrupts, growing impatient, and reminds them that they will meet again at the Hunters Guild the next day, suggesting they continue the discussion there. Mamiya reacts with interest at the mention of the Hunters Guild. The guard then recalls that he plans to report the incident to the Guildmaster, since it has been years since a sword-wielding goblin appeared, and he hopes Mamiya will come along. Mamiya agrees and accepts the request, suggesting they meet again at the guild tomorrow. Zinc thanks him sincerely once more, and May also expresses her gratitude, calling him an aristocrat, a demon lord, and their savior. Mamiya responds politely and parts ways with them, agreeing to meet again. As Mamiya walks on, the system notifies him that his earth magic and presence detection have increased. He immediately understands why. The experience came only from the moles he personally defeated earlier. One realization settles firmly in his mind, landing the final blow matters. He feels conflicted, knowing that if he wants to gain strength, he may have to give up the idea of relying on others and sharing battles. A hint of disappointment surfaces, as he had hoped to fight as part of a party. He knows he cannot ask others to let him take the last hit every time. He decides that changing his gear will be necessary. Mamaya looks around and takes in the lively town for the first time. Despite the bustle, what he wants most right now is food. He requests meat, and the shopkeeper calmly states the price as 400 beek. Mamiya wonders what beek is, and the shopkeeper clarifies that it is the local currency. Mamiya exhales, decides to cast aside his pride despite being 32 years old in his mind, and turns to Zinc, Pata, May, and Porter, asking them to lend him some money. Mamiya sleeps on a tree branch when a sudden noise startles him awake. Confusion crosses his face as he listens. Then realization follows when he notices someone below. He accepts that he is still alive and decides to climb down. The night had been harsh. After leaving the forest and parting ways with the others, things seemed fine at first. However, the sudden reality of beaky currency hits him hard. Without money, he cannot find a proper place to sleep, or even buy food. In the end, he spends the night outdoors. The situation feels cruel yet fitting for a game-like world. He reflects that having no money leaves him no choice. A familiar voice reaches him. May appears and feels relieved when she finds him. She admits that she has been searching everywhere. Mamiya recognizes her and feels slightly embarrassed. May looks up at the tree and feels surprised, realizing that this is why she could not find him earlier. She gently reproaches him and admits that if he had told her, she would have let him stay the night. Mamiya feels awkward and explains that he only realized he was completely penniless after they went their separate ways. He then wonders about their plans for the day. May responds with certainty and urges him forward. They are heading to the Hunters Guild, and the others are already waiting. With that, they hurry off together. As they reach the Hunters Guild, Mamiya turns to Pota and the others with a serious look and promises that he will return the favor someday, then asks if he can have some of the meat. He eats greedily, and satisfaction spreads across his face. The meat tastes incredible. The juice spreads as he chews, mixed perfectly with salt and spices. This is exactly the kind of otherworld meal he had been longing for. Someone nearby notices his appetite and feels amused. Mamiya reflects that it makes sense, since he has not eaten a proper meal for 6 days. A familiar voice suddenly reaches him. He looks up and feels startled when he sees Amanda standing there. She observes him with interest and feels that he seems to have a promising future. The 3 children cheer loudly when they notice her. Amanda confirms his identity and recognizes him as Loki. She senses that he must have had a rough day yesterday. Then her tone turns serious. Someone from the guild is calling for him. The Guildmaster wants to see him, and she asks him to come along. Mamiya feels uneasy. The words Guildmaster echo in his mind. He wonders if he did something wrong. Thoughts rush through his head. Did sleeping outside cause trouble? Did eating fish and fruit without permission offend someone? Anxiety builds, but he quickly agrees to go. Amanda reassures him and encourages him to finish eating first. Soon after, he stands inside the guild office. A man greets him with calm authority and introduces himself as the master of the Bizarre Hunters Guild. His name is Yagovel. Mamiya introduces himself as Loki. Yagov wastes no time and moves straight to the point. He presents Mamiya with money and explains that it is a token of gratitude from the town for saving the children. Even though Mamiya was an outsider, he solved a serious problem. Mamiya feels overwhelmed. He admits that he only acted out of desperation, but he accepts the money with deep gratitude, since he currently has none. Yagove then expresses interest in having him join the Hunters Guild. Mamiya considers it carefully. The work suits him, but he feels hesitant because he does not plan to stay in the town for long. Yagove calmly explains that the Hunters Guild is an independent organization supported by the country. Any registration made here will remain valid in other regions and countries. Mamiya understands and feels reassured. He notices that despite his status, the Guildmaster does not pressure him and speaks seriously to him as an equal. That leaves a good impression. Yagove observes that Mamiya seems able to understand the local language well. He explains that, aside from appearance, one can sometimes tell a person's origin by the movement of their mouth when they speak. Mamiya feels surprised and realizes how much he still has to learn. Yagove then adds one final observation. The language Mamiya speaks does not match any country he knows. Yagove's expression turns serious as another matter comes up. 10 days ago, 2 hunters from this town went missing, and a search request was issued. He wonders if Mamiya can share anything in detail. Those hunters usually worked in the Great Forest Pamera. Before they left, one of them had just refurbished his equipment. Yagova then wonders why Mamiya entered that forest even though he was not a hunter. Mamiya feels tension rise inside him. He senses suspicion. He expected questions about the sword, but the direction still catches him off guard. He realizes that a poor lie would only deepen doubt, so he decides to be honest. He apologizes and admits that he cannot explain why he was in the forest, but he firmly states that he did not kill the missing hunters. If he had, he would never have shown his face in this town. He then recalls what he witnessed. 3 or 4 days earlier, he saw something that looked like a human arm, already being eaten by a goblin. The memory still feels heavy. He adds that he will return the sword he took from the goblin to the hunter's family. He also offers his help in searching for the remaining traces of the missing hunters. The Guildmaster decides that it will not be necessary. The missing hunters were a married couple with no close relatives, so there is no one to return the sword to. He allows Mamiya to keep it. The Guildmaster expresses regret, making it clear that he was not accusing Mamiya directly. Incidents like this are common for hunters, but he cannot simply ignore them. With that, he ends the conversation and mentions that the registration desk will open at noon. He adds that it would be good if Mamiya considers joining the guild and offers his regards before leaving. As the Guildmaster walks away, Mamiya feels unsettled. He wonders what that exchange was really about. The mention of searching for remains lingers in his mind. He questions whether it was meant to stir sympathy. The Guildmaster's eyes remind him of a company director from his previous life, someone who always smiled, handed out gifts, and spoke kindly while the younger workers treated him like a friendly uncle. Yet behind those smiles, the eyes never truly smiled. They hid their real intentions, making them impossible to read. Mamiya revises his earlier judgment. He realizes that he does not like that kind of person. Elsewhere, Amanda notices the Guildmaster's unusual mood and remarks that he seems troubled for once. The Guildmaster agrees and reflects that the boy is far too sharp for his age. He considers the possibility that Mamiya might be similar to the 4 individuals from before, though he admits he cannot be certain. Amanda reacts to how bold that assumption sounds and senses that he must have a reason. The Guildmaster recalls an incident from 6 years ago. Amanda immediately remembers it as well. Items such as shoes, a watch, and a glass board, objects with strange shapes never seen before, were discovered and sealed as national secrets. The Guildmaster connects that memory to Mamiya. He notes that the boy carried a watch, and it was still moving. If Mamiya had simply found it in the forest, he would have tried to hide it. Yet he did not. He also never brought it up during questioning, acting as if it had always been his. His focus remained solely on clearing any suspicion of murder. The Guildmaster instructs Amanda to keep a close watch on Mamiya and report everything. Amanda agrees but cautions him not to cross the line. She warns that if their town were to vanish because of reckless involvement, it would be disastrous. The Guildmaster reassures her and takes responsibility. He reflects quietly on how the boy chose the name of the Demon Lord for himself. The choice deepens the mystery surrounding him. The Guildmaster feels a strong need to uncover Mamiya's true objective as soon as possible. The town has seen no major changes for a long time, but he cannot help hoping that this strange presence might bring something positive. With that thought, he offers a silent wish. He hopes Loki will be kind to their town. Mamiya thinks about the Hunter Guild and feels that joining it is probably necessary to survive in this world. The Guildmaster gives him a strange and uneasy impression, and the earlier questioning made him feel as if he was suspected of being a killer. Even so, Mamiya feels confident that he can manage here and do well. He turns to May, Zinc, and Pota with a light smile and shows them what he received. He feels amused as he reveals the amount, and quietly enjoys their reactions. The 3 of them freeze in shock when they see the money. Mamiya feels the weight of it himself and reflects on the sheer power of money. He confirms the amount as 150,000 BQ. Zinc grows curious about the reason for such a reward. Mamiya understands that it is a token of appreciation from the mayor, given for saving the children. May reacts with excitement and recalls that if it had been registered as an emergency quest, the reward could have been even higher, possibly around 100,000 BQ per person. Mamiya feels surprised by that thought. Zinc quickly grows serious and warns them not to tempt fate. Emergency quests almost never happen, and forcing one would lead to punishment. The word penalty makes Mamiya tense. Zinc calmly explains that hunters exist to help people, not to profit from emergencies. If such a quest were mishandled, the guild would demand reimbursement from the hunters instead. Mamiya absorbs this explanation. Zinc adds that it was still too early for the guild to declare an emergency quest, so the reward was most likely given simply for protecting citizens. Feeling relieved now that he has money, Mamiya suggests they eat some skewered meat together. As he moves on, Mamiya reflects again on the Guildmaster. The man feels different from what Jacob once described, and that lingering sense of unease remains. He decides to focus on what comes next and looks around, wondering where he should register. At that moment, Amanda notices him. She reacts with mild surprise when she realizes he remembers her name. She smoothly reintroduces herself as the guild receptionist, Amanda, and mentions that her position is the third highest in the guild. Mamiya feels that remembering her name was the right choice, and senses that this connection may be useful in the future. Amanda checks whether Mamiya can write. Mamiya believes that he can. After a short struggle, he commits and writes his name carefully. Amanda watches closely, then nods with approval. She assures him that the guild card will be ready shortly. While they wait, Amanda begins to outline how the Hunters Guild operates. The guild mainly focuses on monster subjugation, but lower-ranked hunters often take on ordinary work as well. Many quests involve simple labor, deliveries, or support tasks rather than combat. Mamiya listens and starts wondering about the ranking system. Amanda clarifies that every hunter begins at G rank. From there, ranks progress upward until A rank, with S rank standing at the top. In total, there are 8 ranks. Hunters are generally allowed to accept quests only at their rank or below. However, with special permission from Yogav, they may take quests one rank higher. Mamiya immediately recognizes the importance of obtaining that permission. Amanda adds that he should be able to receive such approval, especially considering he defeated a sword-wielding goblin. Mamiya then wonders how promotions work. Amanda apologizes lightly and admits that those details are not made public. Pata, listening nearby, grows curious and wonders whether there is some kind of promotion exam. Amanda explains that advancement to B rank requires passing a practical test, while reaching S rank demands a direct interview with the Grand Master at the guild headquarters. She summarizes the system clearly. Promotion depends on contribution. Hunters must prove their value through results. Mamiya understands at once. The system is merit-based. Strength and effort lead directly to recognition and reward. The realization stirs memories of his previous life. This structure feels nothing like a black company, where effort only brought more burden. Here, effort leads to progress. The thought settles firmly in his chest. Amanda finishes her explanation and asks Mamiya to look after the 2 children for now. Mamiya agrees without hesitation. In this world, effort finally carries meaning. Amanda smiles warmly and tells him that she looks forward to his future achievements as a hunter named Loki. She adds that he can approach her anytime if he has questions. Yogav personally asked her to keep an eye on him, and Mamiya is still unfamiliar with the town. Mamiya agrees and feels reassured by her support. He admits that he has many questions, and decides to begin with a simple one: good hunting locations. Amanda reacts with delight and teases him for such an innocent starting point. She recommends the first layer of the Great Forest Palmyra, which suits lower-ranked hunters. Few people go there. For faster growth, she suggests the Roka Plains and the Lulav Forest. Mamiya recalls hearing those names from Zinc earlier. He quietly repeats first layer and reflects. In that shallow region, hunters usually encounter horned rabbits or goblins. The deeper layers grow far more dangerous. His curiosity deepens as he wonders about areas even locals cannot fully explain. Amanda smiles and calls him a curious boy. She shares that legends claim only the Birdman tribe has ever reached the 5th layer, though no one knows the truth. Records suggest that even reaching the 2nd layer takes 60 days. Those who return from the 3rd layer report that monster strength becomes standardized by depth. The 1st layer exists purely for beginners. She adds that hunters often encounter troublesome monsters known as huli moles, which is one reason the forest remains unpopular. The Great Forest Palmyra alone covers nearly a quarter of the continent. Because of its sheer size, no one understands everything inside it. Mamiya listens, fascinated, and quietly describes it as an incredible place. Excitement rises as he compares the forest to a final dungeon placed beside a starter village in a game. He admits that such settings appeal to him. He thanks Amanda and shifts to another concern. He wonders whether low-ranked hunters are forbidden from fighting stronger monsters. Amanda pauses and remarks that he suddenly sounds much less innocent. She explains that hunters may defeat stronger monsters, but they will not receive full subjugation rewards if the quest exceeds their rank. Mamaya responds calmly. Reduced rewards do not bother him. As long as there is no penalty, he can accept it. Amanda confirms that partial rewards are still granted. Mamaya accepts this condition easily. Amanda then wonders if he plans to go deeper into the Great Forest Palmyra. Mamaya immediately denies the idea, feeling that such a thing is impossible right now. Amanda points out that his expression suggests otherwise. Mamaya corrects himself and admits that it is only a goal for the future. Amanda nods and emphasizes that the guild limits rewards to prevent reckless behavior. A hunter's life matters more than profit. She encourages him to move on to his next question. She sighs lightly and comments that he certainly asks a lot. Mamaya feels relieved rather than offended and thanks her sincerely. Amanda suggests that if he wants deeper knowledge, he should visit the document room. The books there are extremely valuable and heavily guarded. Mishandling them could result in lifelong servitude. Her warning carries weight. Mamaya promises caution and thanks her again. As he walks away, a chill runs through him. He recalls considering writing things down earlier and feels relieved that he did not. Paper clearly holds great value in this world. The realization explains why quest boards are carved from wood instead. Zinc calls out, wondering whether Mamaya has finished registering. Zinc mentions that they sold their materials and suggests splitting the money. The total comes to 22,000 break. Mamaya quickly calculates and states 5,500 each. Zinc reacts in surprise and jokes that Mamaya must be a merchant. Mamaya denies it. Zinc then mentions plans to sell the sword and wonders what Mamaya intends to do. Mamaya admits he has no plans yet and decides to accompany them. He also wants to locate a weapon shop. Zinc points one out and they head there together. At the weapon shop, the shopkeeper offers 50,000 break. Mamaya counters with 80,000. The shopkeeper refuses and admits he originally intended to offer only 20,000. To keep things fair, he raises the price to 40,000 break, emphasizing that he cannot take a loss. Mamaya calmly points out that the sword is second-hand and will be resold at the marketplace. The shopkeeper admits that similar swords sell for around 100,000 break. Mamaya proposes 60,000. The shopkeeper refuses again, stating that profit only comes after a sale. Mamaya adds that the sword was purchased from this very shop 10 days ago and recalls how even the gatekeeper praised its quality. He stresses that the sword will sell quickly and raises his offer to 72,000 break. The shopkeeper grumbles and threatens to sell it to Podakun instead. After a tense pause, he finally agrees to 72,000 break. Mamaya nods, satisfied. Before leaving, he reminds the shopkeeper to state prices clearly from the beginning next time, especially when dealing with knives. Mamaya moves from right to left and carefully checks the prices in the shops. He starts with clothes. 2 sets of used clothing cost 3,000 break. He nods, satisfied. They look like proper commoner outfits, simple and practical. Next, he checks the boots. They cost 40,000 break. He accepts the price without hesitation, knowing that sturdy footwear is essential if he wants to survive as a hunter. He then moves on to weapons. A short sword is priced at 50,000 break, reduced from a higher price. When Mamaya grips it, the balance feels right. He is satisfied and thinks that he managed to buy a weapon suitable for a beginner. He decides that next time, he will buy from the store without bargaining. After finishing his purchases, Mamaya goes to an inn. A room costs 3,000 break per night. He pays immediately and throws himself onto the bed, spreading his arms wide. Things finally feel stable. He now has proper clothes, a weapon, and a place to sleep. For the first time since arriving in this world, he feels relief. By noon, Mamaya decides it is time to move again. A bell rings, marking the time in the town. He notices that lamps use magic stones as fuel. Paper is rare and valuable, so wooden boards are commonly used instead. As he learns these small details about daily life, quiet excitement builds inside him. He feels eager for what comes next. Amanda notices Loki and smiles. She sees that he has changed his clothes and looks good. Loki thanks her politely. He brings up the things he asked about earlier and learns that he has received special permission to take an F-rank quest. However, there is a condition. He must form a party. The rule is strict, and he is reminded that he is still a beginner. Loki accepts this and resolves to do his best. At the same time, he thinks quietly. Forming a party would make things easier by dividing roles like hunting, gathering, and carrying. Even so, he feels there's little benefit for him right now. Working alone fits his current situation better, and that thought stays with him. Mamaya considers his circumstances. If he planned to stay in town for a long time, lowering his efficiency might be fine. Right now, however, he feels capable of exploring the great forest Palmera on his own. What he needs most is money. He does not want to share experience or rewards. Guilt crosses his mind when he thinks about Amanda, but he still decides to go alone. As he leaves, the gatekeeper notices him and reacts with surprise, reminding him to return before nightfall. Mamiya senses their concern and understands that they are worried about his safety. He accepts that feeling and moves on. His destination is clear: the Great Forest Palmera, first layer. Mamiya reviews the rewards. A subjugation gives 1,000 breek. A magic stone gives 1,500 breek. Other items offer similar rewards. From a money perspective, hunting horned rabbits is more efficient. However, since he is hunting alone, collecting magic stones feels like a better option because they are light and easy to carry. He decides to treat the day as a test. Everything feels fine at first. His vision is clearer than before because his level has increased. Even an ordinary person like him has become noticeably stronger. The effect of the status system is better than he expected. He faces goblins and realizes something important. In his current state, he might be able to defeat them even without using a flashlight. The feeling reminds him of character growth in a game. The moment when effort turns into visible strength excites him, and he decides to keep hunting. An hour passes and night begins to approach. His body grows heavy. The work is far harder than he imagined. The smell and texture of the monsters are grotesque and make him feel sick. He only learned how to dismember from an old science class video, and now that knowledge proves useless. Because of his poor technique, the process becomes even more disturbing. His hands hesitate, then move again. He feels around and finally finds it. A magic stone. What remains is proof of subjugation. He pushes the blade into the joint just as he remembers. That is all he needs to do, yet it takes far too long. Even a single goblin drains his strength and patience. Blood covers his hands. He freezes and looks around. There is no river nearby this time. Before, water was always close, so he never worried about cleaning up. Now reality hits him hard. This is the result of ignoring the concern of others. He curses himself. Going solo for efficiency feels like a foolish excuse, and he realizes how reckless he has been. Loki admits to himself that he underestimated the situation. He thought he could handle it easily, but this is a life-and-death world. There is no retry if he dies. That truth sinks in deeply. Panic rises, but he forces himself to focus. For now, he only needs to wipe off enough blood so his knife will not slip. Being angry at himself will not help. He decides to reach his goal for the day no matter what. He pushes forward and reminds himself that defeating a sword-wielding goblin earlier was not meaningless. Later, Amanda reviews the results and feels impressed. For a first hunt, Loki gathered a surprising amount. At the same time, concern shows on her face. She notices his condition and realizes he went out without bringing water. He only carried a weapon and a basket. Going alone without a party looks reckless, almost suicidal. Loki has no excuse, and the thought leaves him silent. He gathers himself and asks what kind of equipment a beginner hunter really needs. Amanda agrees to explain, but first tells him to wash his hands. He does so, feeling awkward, almost like a child. His hands finally come clean, and even the system reflects that his hands are now clean. Someone offers him food to help him recover, but Loki shakes his head and asks only for water. He knows eating is important for growth, but his appetite is gone. Cold water is brought to him with ice. He drinks it slowly. The waitress notices his distant expression and wonders if something is bothering him. Loki brushes it off, telling himself it is nothing, even though the weight of the day still lingers in his chest. The waitress glances toward the hall and notices a man wearing glasses. She recalls hearing that glasses like those have existed for 20 or 30 years. She is not knowledgeable about history, but this is not Earth, so it makes sense that technology developed along a different path here. The name Takuya crosses Loki's mind. Otherworlders like him are bringing Earth culture into this world. One day, they might change everything. He lets the thought go. He is not a scholar or an inventor. Stories like that belong in light novels, not his life. He drinks his water again. It tastes unusually good. He decides to focus only on what lies in front of him. Nearby, Amanda hands over a report and asks Rhodey to process it. The documents belong to a newly registered hunter. She reviews the results and feels satisfied. For a first attempt, the magic stone extraction is clean. Rhodey notices her concern and lightly teases her, saying that worrying too much will dull her charm. He understands her intentions and adds that if the boy works hard and earns money, the guild will benefit as well. What they need most is for him to keep moving forward. Loki carefully reviews the areas surrounding Beasheart Town and the monsters that inhabit each region. In the Great Pomera Forest lair, he notes that horn rabbits, goblins, and huli moles commonly appear. He then turns his attention to Roca Plains, where air mantises capable of using wind magic roam alongside poison mice that inflict poisonous attacks. Although the recommended rank for this area is F, the monsters seem tougher than expected, prompting Loki to consider proper countermeasures before engaging them. Next, he evaluates Louvre Forest, a significantly more dangerous location. This area contains rig spitters that can spew sticky threads up to 50 centimeters long, small wolves that hunt in coordinated packs, and giant orcs. The recommended rank here is E, and Loki concludes that he is still too weak to fight such enemies safely. After reviewing all nearby locations, he determines that, despite the difficulty of dismembering monsters, the overall combat difficulty in Palmyra should remain manageable for now. However, he recognizes that the real challenge lies in deciding when to change hunting grounds. Unlike games where risk can be ignored, real combat demands careful judgment. After completing his calculations, Rode reports that Loki has earned a total of 4,850 beak. Rode praises him for earning such an amount in just half a day. Loki is shocked when he realizes that this nearly reaches 50,000 beaky in such a short time. Wanting to improve further, Loki asks for advice on maintaining material quality. Rhodey advises him to work hard but also reminds him not to forget to rest. Hearing this, Loki recalls Amanda, who is always concerned about him. He begins calculating that if he could hunt more efficiently, he might be able to earn 100,000 beaky in a single day. This thought pushes him to seriously consider choosing better hunting spots. He also admits to himself that he still lacks proper equipment and efficiency, leaving him unable to settle his thoughts. Amanda interrupts his thinking and reminds him that she has already offered to teach him the basics of hunting thoroughly. Loki responds that he plans to go shopping for essential supplies. Amanda agrees but warns him firmly not to do anything reckless. Before he leaves, she hands him a church coin that she had forgotten to give him earlier. Loki realizes that the coin allows him to check his status. Later, the scene shifts to Loki with Zinc, May, and Maisa. Loki mentions that he is about to go shopping, and comments that their timing is perfect. He takes out the silver coin Amanda gave him and offers it to Zinc, explaining that Amanda asked him to pass it along. Zinc immediately recognizes it as a coin that allows someone to check their status for free, and asks whether Loki intends to use it himself. Loki replies that he does not need it for now and feels it would be a waste to let it sit unused. Zinc hesitates, admitting that it has been nearly 2 years since he last checked his status, but he feels uncomfortable accepting such a thing for free. Loki reassures him and tells him not to worry about it. In return, Loki asks about the process of checking one's status in Beasheart. Zinc explains that he is simply curious and wonders whether it works differently here. He then describes how a black slate appears, displaying learned skills and their levels, noting that the system works the same everywhere. Loki processes this explanation and realizes that there are no numerical values shown. May misunderstands slightly and assumes he is asking about the number of learned skills. She casually lists her own abilities, including language comprehension, gathering, and herbalism. Loki immediately becomes uneasy and stops her, overwhelmed by how openly she shares such information. He reflects that revealing skills in public could be dangerous if malicious people are nearby. Zinc recalls something he once heard from his father long ago, that people with rare skills sometimes become targets for kidnapping and are even sold into slavery. He quickly adds that this has nothing to do with Misa. The thought unsettles her, and she decides to keep her skills secret. At that moment, a woman steps forward and gently scolds the group, reminding them to lower their voices because they are standing in front of the church and disturbing others. May apologizes and addresses her as Miraz. Miraz admits that she does not recognize Loki. May explains that Loki is a new hunter and mentions that he is strong. Zinc adds that he was explaining how status checks work. Miraz assumes that Loki might be from a remote village and offers to answer any questions he may have about the church. Loki responds politely, admitting that he has no questions yet but asks her to teach him when the time comes. Miraz notes his manners and remarks that he seems to have a promising future. Loki responds with practiced politeness, thanking her and stating that he will do his best as a monster hunter. Miraz accepts his response but reminds him that true goodness is shown not just through words but through daily conduct. She urges them to follow the path of virtue so they may receive blessings from the goddess. Loki listens with a faint smile, reflecting inwardly. He doubts that any so-called corn-headed deity is truly watching his daily behavior, and quickly dismisses the idea. Still, he understands her point. Gaining experience through daily actions makes sense, but for him, the most efficient way to grow stronger is by hunting monsters and acquiring new skills. Realizing the time, Loki decides to leave for shopping, knowing he will miss dinner if he delays any longer. Later, Loki returns home. He feels relieved knowing that he has prepared dinner for the day, yet he realizes that he may not be able to eat meat for a while. The memory of monsters bleeding and the lingering stench of their corpses unsettles him and makes him feel sick. He recognizes that he previously spoke lightly about hunting, almost as if he were playing a game. In reality, hunting monsters means killing living beings. This world is undeniably real. As he reflects, Loki recalls words about being grateful for what is handmade, and finally understands their meaning. To him, accumulating virtue feels like another method of gaining experience. The system repeatedly rewards him with notifications. Enemies defeated, new skills learned, experience gained, and status increased. He realizes that people are not obsessed with delivering the final blow because it is unnecessary for survival. There is no hidden rule, they simply understand this instinctively. The same applies to skills. Loki can see unlearned skills and attempt to develop them to some extent. He notices partial progress in animal language comprehension, while other areas show no improvement. Others cannot see this information. What they call a status check only confirms which skills someone possesses, not their levels or numerical values. Loki alone can see numbers, making the ability feel like a cheat. Because of this, he cannot stop viewing the world like a game. He reflects honestly on himself and realizes that he is even capable of using others for his own benefit, something he never would have imagined in his previous life. The reason is simple. Effort truly makes him stronger in this world. His pursuit of strength becomes difficult to restrain. He does not want to repeat the suffering of the past, yet he fears that if this continues, he will slowly become corrupted. Wondering if it is still possible, Loki silently asks whether he could return to his original world. At that moment, the light fades and everything is swallowed by darkness. In that darkness, an image forms in his mind. A demon lord shrouded in shadow. Demon Lord Loki. He remembers learning about this existence simply because it shares his name. A being said to have been defeated by Takuya, someone summoned from another world. The thought unsettles him deeply. He realizes that his personality is not suited to becoming a hero, and if things continue this way, he might become a demon lord instead. There is no response from the one who summoned him. Faced with the silence, Loki decides that if no answers will come, he will live for his own sake. Still, one question remains unresolved in his mind, whether he should tell Zink and the others the truth about himself. Loki wakes up with a heavy feeling in his legs. His feet ache, and the pain makes him realize that pushing himself too hard in a 14-year-old body is reckless. Since arriving in this world, no messages or instructions have come from the being that summoned him. With no guidance at all, he chooses to live freely. Yet a serious problem soon becomes clear. His stamina. There is no stamina value or status he can rely on. With nothing else to help him measure his limits, Loki has spent the past 3 days jogging to train his body. Today, he plans to keep the training light. As he moves through town, a baby's crying catches his attention. A sense of danger rises in him, and he assumes another attack is happening. Acting on instinct, he rushes forward with his sword. However, before he can intervene, the child's mother protects her baby on her own. Concern fills Loki as he approaches, but the woman remains calm. Her gentle smile shows that both she and her child are safe, and her gratitude eases his tension. Loki reflects on the moment and realizes that situations like this happen more often than he expects. Rhodey, who has also been watching, notices the woman's courage and acknowledges her resolve. He adds that if Loki is shaken by something like this, his body will not last long. Rhodey then notices that Loki has returned earlier than usual, and wonders if exhaustion has caught up with him. Even so, he recognizes that Loki's work remains steady, and the rumors about his talent are not baseless. Those rumors trouble Loki. He does not want to stand out, but at the same time, he does not want to reduce his income. He hands over the materials, and Rhodey handles everything smoothly. Rhodey grows curious about Loki's goals and reflects on whether Loki is saving for something specific. Loki shares his plan to head to the Raka Plains in the future, which will require proper weapons, armor, and equipment. After calculating the cost, he realizes he will need around 1.5 million bika. The amount overwhelms Rhodey. He remarks that it is rare to see someone carrying a basket that full, and acknowledges that earning that much means giving up on staying unnoticed. He reflects that most people in town are not true hunters, but only sell leftover materials as side work. Loki finally understands why some people reacted strangely before. Rhodey adds that this is simply how things work, and notes that selling everything except subjugation parts at specialty stores is often more profitable. Delivering monster materials every day will naturally draw attention, whether Loki wants it or not. At the same time, such consistency benefits the guild and raises Loki's value as a hunter. Loki quietly accepts this reality and connects it to future rank advancement. He realizes that avoiding attention is no longer realistic. Rhodey then notices that Loki always carries his gold coins with him and feels uneasy about it. He reflects that the guild can store gold safely. Loki pauses, considers the risk, and decides to entrust his coins to the guild. The realization hits Loki hard. Important information like this was never shared by Amanda, and the thought unsettles him. Carrying 1.5 million biki on his person feels extremely dangerous. The image of being robbed flashes through his mind, and he briefly wonders whether this situation is some kind of flaw in the system. As he moves forward, lost in thought, he accidentally bumps into someone and quickly apologizes. Only then does he notice that he has stopped in front of a jewelry store. Inside, his eyes widen. A woman with long hair greets him and assumes he has come to sell magic stones. Loki feels caught off guard as he realizes that everything on display is a magic stone. The polished stones shine in many colors, and the woman notes how beautiful they are. Loki's unfamiliar reaction gives him away, and she continues more carefully. Each stone's attribute changes with its color: black for null, red for fire, and others following the same pattern. Loki recalls seeing black magic stones before, and recognizes that null attribute stones are commonly used in daily life. As the explanation continues, he starts connecting the ideas himself and realizes that high-quality magic stones can be used to enchant equipment with special abilities. Excitement rises in him. The image of wielding multiple swords, each with a different element, forms clearly in his mind. The woman notices his reaction and smiles knowingly. At that moment, Rhodey adds that although weapon shops in Bezart can enchant equipment, magic stones are still far too expensive for a beginner hunter who owns only a knife. Loki stares at a small magic stone and freezes when he sees the price: 50,000 bika. The number clashes sharply with his memory of Hulimol magic stones, which usually sell for only around 2,000 bika. The difference leaves him stunned. He then notices the earth attribute and understands that such stones are mainly used for construction. Unlike fire or ice, they do not attract much demand. The reasoning feels natural, and he quietly accepts it. The shop's attitude makes it clear that he should return once he has enough money. The words "future hunter" linger in his mind as he steps outside. Loki exhales slowly. He reflects on how expensive proper equipment already is, and the existence of attribute weapons adds another layer to his growing concerns. As he walks on, a familiar smell reaches him. His attention sharpens when he realizes he has found a special food place. The owner proudly presents curry, and Loki reacts instantly to the rich scent of spices. Unease settles in him for a moment as he wonders whether he truly has the resolve to sit there. The shop serves only one dish: Kadi, an ultimate meal loaded with spices and priced at 9,000 bika. The cost feels steep, yet his body strongly craves it, and he chooses to eat. The spice overwhelms him the moment he takes a bite. Heat burns his tongue, yet a deep and delicious flavor follows. The pain does not stop him. He keeps eating until the dish is gone. Satisfaction fills him, and gratitude naturally follows. Even though he has just decided to save 1.5 million bika, spending 9,000 on one meal feels acceptable because of the taste. Still, something about the flavor feels strangely familiar. As the warmth lingers, Loki quietly wonders whether other people from Earth might be eating here too. Loki comes across a small restaurant where the menu offers only one dish: curry. It is described as an ultimate meal filled with rich spices, and the price is set at 9,000 beek per serving. The cost overwhelms him at first, but the strong aroma pulls him in. Once he eats, the taste hits him with deep nostalgia and satisfaction. The spice burns, yet a comforting flavor follows, making it impossible to stop eating. After finishing the meal, Loki feels genuinely impressed. He decides that while the curry is too expensive to eat often, it will make a perfect reward for special occasions. As he leaves, he reflects that everything worked out this time, but entering shops without thinking can be dangerous when money disappears so easily. Outside, a woman stops him and wonders if he is Loki-kun. She introduces herself as May's mother and expresses gratitude for taking care of her daughter. A cheerful man beside her adds that he is May's father. During their conversation, the mother mentions that she often goes into the forest and suggests that Loki may have seen her before. A strange sense of familiarity settles over him. He quietly wonders if he has encountered them in the past and realizes that the building nearby is their family's pharmacy. Loki remains near the entrance when May suddenly notices him and shouts his name. She runs toward him full of energy, talking excitedly about going to the river. She talks about how refreshing the water feels and how they can catch fish there. Before Loki can react properly, May rushes off again, shouting that she will invite Pota and Zink as well. Loki watches her disappear like a sudden storm. Her mother apologizes, admitting that May is always like that. Her father smiles and reflects on how playing by the river reminds him of his own childhood. The mother then gently hopes that Loki can accompany May, mentioning that he still goes fishing by the river even now. Loki realizes that refusing is not really an option. He had planned to go hunting, but spending time with the three of them sounds enjoyable in its own way. The mother feels relieved knowing Loki will be there, though she admits that Zink is much stronger and more dependable. Loki quietly agrees. Even with a cheat-like skill that lets him view his status, he is far from invincible, and Zink remains more reliable. May's mother hands Loki a small item. He grows curious and learns that it is medicine meant to ease muscle pain and recover fatigue, likely needed after running around every day. Loki feels surprised by the kindness and feels a strong urge to pay. She refuses, saying it is her way of thanking him for saving her daughter from the goblin. Loki hesitates, uncomfortable accepting it for free, but she reassures him that it is only leftover medicine and adds that medicine is expensive, so she cannot accept his money. Loki understands her intention. He reflects that expensive items like curry and medicine often rely on precious ingredients. Looking at the medicine, he feels hopeful. Its spicy appearance makes him expect strong effects. He also wonders if there might be medicine for stomach pain. Holding the bottle, he feels grateful and thinks about returning to buy more if it works well. At that moment, Pata and Zink notice him standing there. May urges everyone to hurry. Zink comments on how excited she looks, then notices that Loki bought a fishing rod as well. Loki admits he chose the cheapest one but feels it should be enough. Zink agrees and has him place the gear in Pata's basket. Zink adds that he and Loki will watch the surroundings as a precaution while moving. He estimates that it will take about 2 hours to reach the river. Loki finds it strange to walk for 2 hours just to play and suddenly laughs, feeling how wild this world truly is. Zink suggests stopping for lunch along the way. Loki realizes he has not cooked anything yet and quietly enjoys the calm scenery around them. May happily mentions that her mother prepared many things for them. Zink looks through the items and reacts with surprise when he notices a magic tool for lighting fire. Loki grows curious about it. Zink realizes Loki does not know about the tool and decides to show him. He reveals a box with a burner cap, a switch, and a fuel tank, and shows where the magic stone goes and how turning the knob creates fire. Loki compares it to modern tools in his mind and feels impressed. Holding it, he realizes how convenient it is. He suggests grilling fish. Zink reacts with mixed feelings, unsure whether Loki is knowledgeable or clueless at times. Loki smiles, feeling pure bliss, and focuses on the cooking food. He notices insects nearby and calmly remarks that they are also delicious with salt. Zink hesitates but goes along with it. Pata chews eagerly and happily declares it tasty. The children grow excited and want more. May and Pata both agree enthusiastically. Zink suggests catching more fish to work up their appetite and proposes making it a team battle. As they consider teams, Loki introduces a simple game. Rock, paper, scissors. Loki realizes that he cannot communicate well with Pata and wonders what to do. Pata looks nervous. Loki adds gestures and movements while indicating that he will handle the fish and asks Pata to move rocks. Pata understands and agrees, clearly relieved. He encourages himself and declares that they should do their best. Loki briefly feels confused, wondering if they are about to start a fight. Zink warns that it will not be easy, and May cheers loudly, declaring she will not lose. Loki directs Pata to move a rock while he handles the insects. Pata agrees quickly. Loki points to another spot, noting there are 2 insects and leaving one for Pata. Pata reacts with excitement and rushes over. Loki asks him to flip a suspicious rock, and Pata agrees again. As they continue, Loki worries that he may have pushed too hard. He apologizes and suggests slowing down. Pata insists he is fine and not tired. Loki watches him carefully, then gently reminds him not to force himself. Suddenly, Pata splashes in the water and freezes. His face lights up as he realizes he understands Loki's words. Overwhelmed with emotion, he repeats that he understands. Loki shouts for everyone's attention. Pata rushes forward and hugs him tightly, crying out with joy that he can finally talk with Loki. May reacts with excitement, amazed that Pata truly understands now. Zink agrees and praises the result, feeling it happened because Pata kept talking with Loki. Loki reflects inwardly, wondering if his foreign language comprehension skill improved through constant conversation and whether he unintentionally became a teacher. He pushes the thought aside and recognizes that this is the result of Pata's effort. Feeling proud, Loki suggests celebrating. They go to a restaurant together and enjoy a lively celebration. A few days later, Loki wakes up feeling much lighter than before. He realizes the expensive medicine worked well and thinks about asking May's mother about its price next time. With yesterday's rewards, he has finally reached his goal of saving 1.5 million beak. Curious, he checks his status and notices that his level has risen to level 3 and presence detection has also reached level 3. At the guild, Amanda notices him and complains that he has not visited in a while. Loki responds that keeping his reward money at the guild feels safer. Amanda agrees, then quickly adds that she is not saying this because she missed him. She senses a change in him and congratulates him, revealing that his promotion to F rank has been officially decided. She mentions that this happened while someone had been away for several days. Loki feels apologetic but also relieved by the timing. He moves to withdraw some of his money, feeling ready to sort out his equipment and finally challenge the Raka Plains. Amanda congratulates Loki on his promotion to F rank and feels that the new license suits him well. She notices his distracted expression and senses that something is on his mind. Loki reflects on his license and wonders whether the material of the card can be changed. Amanda acknowledges that it is possible and notes that different minerals are assigned according to rank, much like how lower ranks use iron while higher ranks use adamant. Loki feels puzzled by the system and considers why the material changes seem arbitrary. Amanda adds that the reason is simple. Changing the material requires an additional processing fee. Loki reacts strongly when Amanda reminds him that the guild operates as a business. Free distribution of rare minerals would lead to bankruptcy, and only high-rank hunters usually care about the quality of their guild cards. Charging extra fees mainly targets those who can afford it. Loki reflects on this logic and shifts his attention to ranks, noting that S-rank cards are made of adamant. The idea lingers in his mind. Adamant feels like an incomplete answer for the highest rank. Amanda senses his sharp intuition and acknowledges that there once existed a rank even higher than S. Over time, that rank faded away because modern hunters could no longer reach it. Since it became irrelevant, it was no longer mentioned. Loki grows thoughtful rather than curious. The term modern hunters stands out to him. It suggests that there may be powerful individuals outside the hunter system, people who do not fit within its limits. The thought naturally leads him to wonder about reincarnated beings and legendary figures, such as a rumored cheat hero named Takuya. Loki reflects on the idea that if the reincarnated hero were born as a prince in some country, he would have no need to become a hunter at all. The gap between them feels unfair, especially since they both come from Japan. That difference weighs on him, yet curiosity grows stronger. If that person is still alive, Loki genuinely wants to meet him someday. Amanda notices Loki's sharp thinking and feels impressed. She shows willingness to share knowledge, admitting that she rarely meets someone so perceptive at such a young age. The topic of the lost rank surfaces, but Loki feels no urgency. As a low-rank hunter, he believes it is not something he needs to worry about yet. His focus shifts back to preparation. Raka Plains awaits, and there is no time to linger. He gathers information from those around him. Advice piles up, antidotes are necessary, supplements should not be overlooked, and proper preparation matters more than anything else. The amount he purchases draws attention, but Loki remains confident in his choices. Only weapons and armor remain. He plans to visit Pesa's shop early in the morning before departing. The timeline is tight. Leather is already available, but proper armor would normally take several days. That delay frustrates him. Since he intends to leave immediately, he pushes for ready-made equipment instead. The shopkeeper reacts strongly. This is not a small matter. Equipment directly affects survival, and poorly fitted armor could cost a life. Despite the harsh words, the concern is genuine. The shopkeeper insists on proper fitting before anything else and forces Loki to stay put. Only after that will weapon selection begin. At the weapon shop, the shopkeeper makes it clear that child-sized armor cannot be prepared on short notice. The realization settles in, and Loki recognizes his miscalculation. He decides to head to the plains without armor, convincing himself that this trip is only meant for scouting. His attention shifts to a weapon displayed in a case. He asks to see it, and once it is taken out, he immediately feels satisfied. The size fits him well, and the price is within his budget. He notices that the weapon is enchanted to increase maximum magic power, which explains why it is cheaper than non-enchanted ones. The shopkeeper reflects that magic power enhancement is usually placed on staves, not weapons meant for close combat, and that hunters in this town, mostly E rank, have no interest in such enchantments. Loki understands then why no one has bought it. He recalls hearing at the jewel shop that Paisa-san can perform enchantments, and the reason this weapon exists becomes clear to him. Loki examines the sword closely and realizes it is an unusual piece that no one wanted. The shopkeeper acknowledges that he was the one who made it, while he admits that the sword was originally created for his son, which is why it was never meant to be sold. Loki reacts in confusion. The shopkeeper snaps at him to read the room and scolds him sharply. He points out that he never mentioned having a son. He adds that placing a sword no one wants into the display case should have made the situation obvious to anyone. Loki apologizes. The shopkeeper reassures him that it is just as he imagined and tells him not to worry. He adds that his son would have been excited about becoming an adventurer at that age. The shopkeeper then asks if Loki is going to buy the sword. Loki realizes it is a memento. The shopkeeper explains that he put it in the showcase because he wants to sell it, and believes his son would be happier that way. Loki decides and says that he will buy it. The shopkeeper wonders whether Loki plans to head to the Raka Plains without wearing any armor. Loki admits that he cannot lie and is indeed planning to do exactly that. Loki believes he is already strong enough because the experience he has gained has reached its limit. That confidence makes him certain he can handle monsters in nearby planes that are only F rank. His actions may look reckless, but he knows he is acting within his current limits. The shopkeeper thinks that if Loki were anyone else, he would be forced to wait until the armor was finished before moving on. However, Loki has grown stronger faster than others by pushing forward this way. The system reflects his growth with a level up. With his strength rising, he plans to fight alongside guild members, carry his role to the recommended level, apply buffs, draw enemy attention, and move forward into battle. Even so, Loki decides to go. Even if he only has a knife, he believes he can still scout the area. He cannot wait 4 days without knowing what the new hunting spot looks like. Loki hears the shopkeeper sigh and wonder why Loki is saying the same thing as his son. The shopkeeper reveals that while he was pouring his heart into making that sword for his son, the boy died. Loki stands quietly holding the sword, taking in the weight of those words. The shopkeeper then tells Loki to wait there and turns away. The shopkeeper looks at Loki and notes that the armor fits him perfectly, just as he thought. Loki, slightly taken aback, wonders if the armor belonged to the shopkeeper's son. The shopkeeper turns sharp and remarks that without armor, someone would be torn apart by an air mantis, their insides spilling out, adding that the armor can block wind magic. Loki reacts nervously to the harsh words, apologizing for the sarcasm, yet admits that the fear sharpens his focus. The shopkeeper coldly tells him to go ahead and die wearing that armor, then adds that he would go after Loki and kill him once more. Loki admits that the fear is terrifying, but it sharpens his focus. The shopkeeper points out that there is a practice ground behind the store and urges Loki to try swinging the sword there. As he watches, the shopkeeper reflects that he had been waiting for someone to choose this sword, someone who reminds him of his son. After testing it, Loki feels that it is light, easy to handle, and very comfortable to use. Loki promises that he will not die and expresses his sincere gratitude to the shopkeeper. Loki insists on paying, but the shopkeeper refuses the money. Loki mutters to himself about how stubborn the old man is. In the end, he only pays for the sword and leaves with more money than expected. If this were a game, such an outcome would feel like a bonus, and he knows he should be pleased. Still, gratitude and unease mix in his heart, as he accepts it as a gesture of goodwill. He then arrives at the church, thinking of it as his final stop. He realizes that although he has spoken with Maris from time to time, he has never once stepped inside the church before. Loki notices the statues of the goddesses and observes a person standing before them. Maris appears and greets him, remarking that he has become quite distinguished and wishing him a good afternoon. Loki watches the scene and wonders whether the person is performing what is known as a prayer to the goddess. Maris confirms this understanding, showing that this is how prayers are offered. Nearby, a boy approaches Maris, hoping to have his status checked. Maris accepts the offering and directs him to place it in the room on the left. Loki observes the process closely and realizes that the status check is done on a stone slab. Everything displayed there is fully visible to others. Even after making a payment, the information cannot be hidden. The openness feels convenient, and Loki feels relieved that he can check his own status without drawing attention. A thought crosses his mind about whether the information shown might depend on the size of the offering. As soon as the idea forms, Maris rejects it firmly, making it clear that such thinking would invite punishment. Loki feels embarrassed and withdraws the thought. Maris then adds that those who contribute greatly to the church may sometimes receive invitations to large events hosted by the central authority, known as the Female Empire, often involving massive commemorations. She laughs it off, noting that such matters rarely reach the countryside. Loki listens quietly and reflects that he cannot really sense the church's financial influence here at all. Loki reflects that the donation money is likely used to cover the church's operating costs, yet the way everything is handled feels refined, like that of a wealthy nation. The system impresses him, and he quietly acknowledges how organized the Fanman Empire must be. He then notices that Maris is present as well. She reveals that she has already gathered enough offerings and confirms that she has come to the church for class selection. Loki focuses on that purpose. He does not truly expect to gain a class simply by praying, but he decides to take advantage of any opportunity available to him. Maris views class selection as something close to divine protection itself, and encourages proper prayer to receive a desired class. Loki processes this information and associates divine protection with a surge of growth, imagining increased experience gain, rapid skill development, and access to class-specific abilities. The concept settles in his mind as a powerful blessing that enhances growth depending on the class chosen. He feels overwhelmed as yet another element that resembles a game appears in this world. Despite reminding himself that this is reality, he notices that his class changes to Berserker. The result surprises him, and he searches for the cause. He realizes that what he has lacked most is raw power. Thinking of the class as a growth bonus makes the change easier to accept. That realization leads him to wonder whether classes also have ranks. Maurice confirms that they do. She recalls only seeing beginner ranks, intermediate ranks, and, in rare cases, special classes. Special classes require divine revelation and can only be granted by an old priest. In this town, those are the only possibilities. As she prepares to proceed, she signals toward the inner area, noting that the priest is already present. The old priest responds calmly, confirming that he can still receive divine revelations today. Loki introduces himself. The priest Trail observes him closely and notes how impressive he is for his age. Loki realizes that this man before him is Trail, the priest known as a special class holder. Loki studies the priest more closely and feels that the man does not look especially remarkable. Instead, the plain appearance oddly puts him at ease. From the earlier conversation, Loki begins to sense that divine revelation is not something that can be used without limits. He greets the priest politely and reflects that special classes likely possess abilities far more unique than ordinary ones. Even though he knows very little about divine systems, he wonders whether divine protection is still possible for someone like him. Trail responds calmly, acknowledging that people are born in different places and grow up with different knowledge. He encourages Loki not to feel ashamed of what he does not know and to continue learning without hesitation. He then names the 6 goddesses worshipped in this world: Felensma, the goddess of fertility; Regulsma, the goddess of war; Alicia, the goddess of love; Rhea, the goddess of sin; Firil, the goddess of life; and Lista, the goddess of commerce. According to Trail, these 6 goddesses love humanity equally, without discrimination. Hearing this, Loki feels a strange sense of exclusion and realizes that the being he calls the Cornhead is not among them. That realization confirms his suspicion that the entity is not considered a goddess here. He wonders whether people in Bizart worship only these 6 goddesses. Trail affirms that, according to belief, only 6 goddesses exist in this world. Loki silently feels validated by this answer. Loki then considers whether he must choose a single goddess to pray to. Trail clarifies that while personal worship is a matter of choice, class selection requires offering prayers to all 6 goddesses. This approach may even lead to an unexpected class. With that settled, Trail prepares to begin the ritual. He instructs Loki to focus deeply on the class he wishes to become. As long as Loki holds that image clearly in his mind, Trail will be able to receive divine insight and announce the class that Loki is capable of attaining. Loki feels that this moment depends entirely on the gods. He hopes to receive a good result this time. In his mind, he repeats his wish. He wants a class that grows easily in strength and defense and is strong in close combat. After a short while, he is told that the preparation is complete and that he may open his eyes. The voice he hears is not Trail's. It sounds young and unfamiliar. Loki feels confused and realizes something is wrong. The place around him does not feel normal. Several voices speak at once and interrupt his thoughts. They focus on what he is and judge him as something abnormal in this world. Without hesitation, they decide that he should be erased. Another goddess steps forward and stops Rhea, stating that while Loki is clearly an anomaly, his story has not yet been heard. Loki immediately senses the danger of the situation and realizes how close he was to dying. The confusion among the goddesses feels reasonable to him. When their attention turns to his identity and his reason for being there, he introduces himself as Loki, fear quietly rising inside him as he understands that a single mistake could cost him his life. He remembers his former name, Yoto, and reflects on how he was never properly summoned. Instead, he fell into a crack and drifted through a strange white space. The goddesses consider this explanation and wonder if he was swallowed by a dimensional gap. They agree that such a gap may have connected to this world by chance, which would explain why he knows nothing about it. As Loki continues, he notices something unsettling. Whenever he tries to mention the acorn-headed figure, his voice fails completely, leaving him unable to describe how that godlike being forced him into this world. Rhea senses gaps while reading his thoughts, and Regal notices the same issue. Loki realizes that they cannot fully read his mind and believes this should prove that he is not lying. The goddesses focus their divine sight on him and discover that they cannot see his skills at all. This immediately raises concern. They question whether he truly possesses no skills or whether he is using something beyond their understanding. An unidentified being feels dangerous to them, and the idea of erasing him begins to surface. They also consider the possibility of interference from higher gods and briefly think about contacting Furza, but remember that their jurisdiction has already been abandoned. The situation feels unstable and another goddess urges calm. Loki feels overwhelmed, unable to understand what is happening to him, and all he wants is for them to listen to his story. Instead, the goddesses lose patience. They silence him and label him an anomaly, filling the space with hostility. Anger rises within Loki as he questions whether gods are nothing more than selfish, incompetent, and arbitrary beings. One goddess reacts sharply, feeling insulted by his words and judging his attitude as an unforgivable offense. Loki, however, feels no fear at the threat of countless deaths. He realizes that although he approached them with respect, they never intended to listen, and that all they want is his death. Rhea becomes resolute and moves toward execution, accepting that the townspeople may be harmed and believing it unavoidable. Divine punishment begins to gather. Seeing this, Loki reacts bitterly and points out that they show no concern for innocent lives as long as it is convenient for them. To him, they are no different from criminals pretending to be gods. Rhea hesitates, but Loki's frustration continues to pour out as he reflects on how he was given no explanation, no choice, and no protection. He was thrown into a forest without preparation and torn from his original world without reason. From that moment on, survival became his only goal. He forced himself to endure and treated the world like a game, not because he wanted to, but because it was the only way he could cope. He remembers how unprepared he was, lacking survival knowledge, water, and food. Monsters attacked him without warning. Hunger followed him constantly, and even when he caught fish, he had no way to cook them and was forced to eat them raw. When he finally encountered people for the first time, relief overwhelmed him. Being welcomed into Bazart Town gave him hope, and he believed he could finally rest and live properly in this world as a normal person. Now he questions why all of this is being done to him and wonders whether struggling to survive is truly a crime. In his original world, his parents rejected him, but here people acknowledged his efforts and valued him, and that acceptance brought him genuine happiness. He senses that his life may be ending despite his promise to Paisa that he would not die. A quiet wish forms within him that if he is reborn, it will be in a world like this one, where effort is recognized. He understands that he is not a god or anything special, only a man trying to live and slowly learning how to enjoy life in this world. Regal listens carefully and considers another possibility. At times, the goddesses reincarnate souls from other worlds and grant them special abilities. She wonders whether Loki experienced something similar, and whether an unseen blessing is already tied to him. Understanding her meaning, Loki calmly reveals the truth. Two things were given to him. The first is youth restoration. Although his body appears young, he is actually 32 years old. The second is a status screen that allows him to view his magic power and attributes. He is unsure whether these count as skills, but two sections of the screen remain hidden, which he believes correspond to youth restoration and the status screen itself. Regal senses no deception. Loki compares the system to games from his original world. It displays attributes such as strength, intelligence, and level, unlocks skills when conditions are met, and contains a skill tree showing both learned and unavailable skills. It also lists blessings and titles, though he has none. The goddesses feel unsettled, as the system appears far more detailed than their divine sight. Rhea wonders whether it resembles a foundation created by a higher being. Loki thinks of Fertza, whose name keeps appearing, but realizes he knows nothing about such an existence. To clarify, he compares his system to the prayer method used by ordinary people, which allows them to check skills and rough levels. His system goes further by showing precise values, progress toward skills, and point allocation. Rhea concludes that the involvement of a higher-ranking god is undeniable. Loki feels confused but realizes that the ability only allows observation and grants no direct power. He then remembers that they can read his thoughts. The goddesses reflect on his behavior, sensing sincerity despite his rough attitude, and acknowledge their own fault in provoking him. Loki expresses frustration, pointing out that they try to erase him without listening or even introducing themselves. The realization reaches them, and they lower their stance and apologize. Loki feels relieved and admits that his own words went too far, offering an apology in return. With the tension resolved, Loki explains why he came to the church. He cannot obtain a class and wonders if he lacks aptitude. But the truth is that the six goddesses are only caretakers of the world and lack authority to grant blessings to those not born here. Hope briefly rises before fading, as returning to his original world is impossible. Still, Rhea feels responsible and believes guiding him is their duty. Loki recalls Alicia, the goddess who tried to understand him earlier, and notices her calm presence. Sensing his confusion, the goddesses decide to offer guidance instead and grant him a new ability. Divine Revelation Level 1, an exclusive skill that allows priests to receive messages from the goddesses once per day through automatic activation at no magic cost. Loki understands that communication is one way and worries about constant surveillance, but Alicia explains that observation is limited and churches remain contact points. She adds that the skill resembles a sacred ability normally reserved for shrine maidens. Regal explains that granting it serves as an apology and consumes most of her remaining power, forcing her into rest, a cost she accepts without hesitation. Loki quietly accepts. Later, lying on his bed, Loki understands that everything that happened was real. He cannot gain classes or blessings, and his growth depends solely on skills. Still, the new ability marks the beginning of his new life. He decides to test celestial channeling before sleeping, focusing inward without speaking, and the connection responds. Awareness spreads among the goddesses. A brief disagreement occurs and balance eventually returns. The goddess of life, Furil, shows interest in Loki's survival and earlier defiance, and expresses a desire to meet him, but it proves impossible since he has already visited the church that day. Loki instead checks Alicia's condition and feels relieved that she is safe, realizing that the interaction used his daily activation and that the skill is limited and impractical. Even so, important truths were revealed. Lower-ranking goddesses exist, and a higher god oversees the world. Loki accepts his situation and decides to live by his own choices, even under a greater power's shadow. That is the day he decides to live his own way. Even so, everything remains within the palm of the corn-headed god, the higher god Virsa-sama. A suppressor threatens to kill him, even though his intention is only to make them listen. His words and tears spill out uncontrollably. In the end, he gains a rare skill that allows communication with the goddesses, but when he finally uses it, it turns into a brief minute of one-sided chatter that feels like hell. That experience is already in the past. Now Loki stands in front of a shop and calmly states that he will take the item. The shopkeeper looks at him and comments that he is heading out to hunt again today. Loki confirms it and adds that he plans to challenge the Roka Plains. The shopkeeper remarks that Loki is quite diligent, but notes that he looks tired. Loki brushes it off, saying he will shake it off and that there is no need to worry. In truth, he knows he cannot recover that easily. Even though he can finally explore the Roka Plains he has longed for, exhaustion lingers. He wants his precious time back and realizes that he should really take a break. He could not choose a new job, ended up arguing over offerings, and the mix of trials and kindness only deepened his sense of guilt. Looking back, he feels that the entire situation has been a disaster caused by the gods and goddesses. The area near the North Gate is lively. The destination is the Roka Plains, and the current location is bizarre, near the Palmyra Great Forest. Compared to the South Gate he passed through at the beginning, this place has more status and many more people. It finally feels like a fantasy world. A hunting party moves ahead, and Loki quietly follows behind, letting them lead him toward the Roka Plains. The plains are already active when he arrives. As expected, no one hunts alone here. Monsters are easy to spot, but the open terrain offers little cover. He worries about someone stealing his basket. The openness is both convenient and inconvenient. Though the scenery is pleasant, each time he hunts, he has to put the basket down. Something stirs in the distance. An air mantis as Loki. Its demonate and natural coloring make it difficult to notice. Loki activates Detect Presence and locates it immediately. As long as he knows its position, that is enough. He activates Energy Charge and then Gocha, summoning a poison mouse. If he can finish this quickly without alerting the mischief, it should be fine. Even so, the process feels slow. Notifications appear in succession, announcing the acquisition of Poison Resistance Level 1, followed immediately by Poison Resistance Level 2. Loki pauses at the result, noting that it jumps straight to the second level. With only one kill, the information is insufficient, and further testing is necessary. Even so, the poison mouse proves to be a valuable hunting target. By the end, 21 poison mice are collected. One specimen is unsalvageable due to damage to the poison sac, but the rest receive a good material rating. As expected, one fails to meet the standard. Pesa comments that it was pierced too deeply, and asks if it was the first one Loki hunted. Loki confirms it, explaining that he missed his aim because the creature was slower than expected. Paisa-san responds that poison mice are slow by nature. Paisa-san then mentions Luluve and remarks on the idea of attempting it solo. Loki reflects on the earlier fight with the air mantis, which was not much of a challenge. He wonders whether his training in the Palmyra Great Forest has gone too far, and considers whether heading to Luluve earlier than planned might be possible. Loki understands that this is exactly how people stray from their path. When things go too well, they begin to believe they are stronger than they truly are and end up charging recklessly at enemies beyond them. Many games punish that kind of behavior harshly, often causing players to lose everything. Countless people have fallen into that trap and quit. Loki states that he will not move on to the next area until he is confident he has grown strong enough in the Roka Plains. Paisa-sen laughs and praises the decision, saying that this is the right attitude. He adds that the difficulty rises sharply in Luluve. With Loki's current build, even wearing armor, he would be sent flying by orcs. Loki reflects on whether that earlier comment was meant to test him. Paisa-sen continues, explaining that solo hunting in Luluve does not earn much due to material weight. He notes that Loki already seems aware of this. Orc meat is the most profitable resource there, but no matter how many orcs are defeated, a single person can only carry so much. Loki responds that he will think about it when the time comes. Paisa-san tells him to be sure of that and adds that until then, Loki should endure the receptionist's lecture. He clarifies the spelling of his name as Paisa-sanok and repeats his advice. At that moment, the receptionist calls out that Aiden-sen's payment is ready. A response comes back immediately. It turns out to be the party from earlier. Each member receives 41,400 biki. The amount is considered good for the day, enough to relax for 3 days. Someone suggests buying supplies and resting for 2 days instead. Simply observing items is described as educational. Living comfortably seems possible on 5,000 biki per day, though most people aim for around 10,000 daily. Loki thinks about parties. At first, the idea appealed to him, but when he considers the balance between experience and reward, it no longer seems suitable. Even if he hired a porter, that person would need to keep up with him as he moves across the hunting grounds. He doubts there is anyone like that in town. In the end, Loki concludes that the greatest obstacle is a difference in goals. He wants to pursue power without compromise, all the way to its limit. At that moment, someone calls out to him, asking when he is going to form a party. Loki responds that he was just thinking about it. Nearby, a man speaks with the receptionist and glances in Loki's direction, remarking on him. The receptionist explains that Loki is Amanda-san's favorite and adds that he is the recently rumored promising rookie. Hearing this, Loki reacts quietly, letting out a small sound of acknowledgement. 4 days later, Loki learns something new from hunting poison mice. Skill experience is gained based on the skill level possessed by the monster. That explains why he obtained poison resistance at level 2 after killing only 1. When he defeated monsters in the Palmyra Great Forest, his charred resistance at level 0 gained only 20% experience. In contrast, defeating a poison mouse after his poison resistance reaches level 3 also grants 20% experience. This suggests that monsters in Palmyra likely possess skills at level 1, meaning the environment there is fundamentally different. Poison mice, on the other hand, probably have poison resistance at level 4, which is relatively high. With that in mind, targeting monsters with higher level skills would save him considerable effort in the long run. It would also be more efficient before heading to Luluv. Based on this, Loki decides that he should raise his poison resistance to at least level 6, with level 7 being the ideal goal. Loki concludes that fixed-point hunting is not feasible in this area. Another thing he learns is that these creatures are cannibals, which means he cannot take his eyes off the basket. Returning to Bazarth regularly to store materials is an option, but it would require a 2-hour round trip each time, making it far too exhausting. As someone who values efficiency, he wants to hunt everything within a single area. He considers the idea of placing the basket on a tall platform that monsters cannot reach. Piling dirt with a shovel briefly crosses his mind, but he immediately dismisses it as unrealistic. Then he pauses. Dirt. He recalls that he learned earth magic from the Holy Mole. Acting on impulse, he tries to activate it. His mana begins to decrease, indicating that a spell has been triggered. This surprises him since he was never able to use fire magic no matter how hard he tried before. He focuses and chants again, directing the magic through his feet rather than his hands. The ground begins to rise. He urges it higher. The amount of earth increases, but the monsters are still able to climb it. The mana cost also rises significantly. He wonders whether the shape can be adjusted and decides to experiment further. He attempts to create a pillar, but it does not reach the height he expected. When he tries to create multiple pillars at once, nothing activates at all. He realizes that he may have pushed too far. Gradually, understanding sets in. The key lies in the incantation. By combining specific keywords within the limits of his earth magic level, he attempts again and successfully creates a long pillar. This confirms how magic functions in this world. With this method, fixed-point hunting becomes possible. With the solution in place, Loki turns his attention to the remaining issue of retrieving his basket. Loki experiences the result of fixed-point hunting as the ground rises beneath him, and while lowering his basket, he reflects that he wishes he could tell his past self, who once struggled just to grill fish, that magic actually flows from the feet. Acting on impulse, he activates fire magic as a joke, only to feel genuine surprise when it works. His reaction draws attention, and nearby hunters comment on how sudden and loud he is, noting that he is known as someone who always hunts alone. A hunter named Adent notices him and, sensing opportunity, offers to let Loki join his party. Loki calmly refuses, preferring to continue solo. Adent reacts sharply, insisting that party hunting is the proper way, and warning that lone hunters who gain rewards easily are the ones most likely to die. He pressures Loki to rely on senior hunters and threatens to report him to the guild when Loki stands firm. Loki remains unmoved and accepts the risk. Later at the guild, Amanda recognizes the situation immediately and understands that the party was after Loki's strength, or more precisely his rewards, and that they likely tried to recruit him before anyone else could. Loki feels relieved that she intervened, while Amanda agrees that she could only warn Adent's party in her role as guild staff and could not show favoritism beyond that. Loki acknowledges that guild training made it clear such matters are ultimately personal responsibility, yet he worries that persistent harassment or force could make life difficult, not because of combat ability, but because conflict with Bazarth's residents could cause long-term trouble. After hunting in the Roka Plains for 4 days, he has only reached level 9 and wants to push to at least level 11. He does not want to retreat to Palmyra simply to avoid one party. Despite believing Bezart to be full of good people, he realizes he has stumbled into an unpleasant situation and quietly hopes it will not escalate further. Loki notices the system notification and realizes that his first emergency quest has appeared. The reward for exterminating poison mice has increased, signaling an urgent situation. The system identifies it as a poison mouse extermination emergency quest, explaining that the total number of defeated poison mice has risen sharply and now suggests a possible outbreak. As Loki processes this, doubt surfaces in his mind, and he wonders whether his own actions could have caused the situation. Even as he tries to convince himself that it cannot be his fault, Loki moves ahead through the tall grass while several adventurers chase after him from behind, their footsteps growing louder as they try to close the distance. Breathing heavily and clearly irritated, Loki wonders how long they plan to keep following him, while the group casually claims they are only heading to a different hunting ground. Loki urges them to hunt elsewhere, but Aiden pushes back and claims that Loki is the one intruding on their hunting ground, which makes Loki suspect they are actually after what is in his basket. Trusting his growth, Loki notices that his earth magic has reached level 3 and realizes he can now use up to 4 keywords. So he creates a deep, long pillar that does not move even when pushed, proving his hypothesis correct. Acting calm and confident, Loki turns away, decides to continue hunting on his own, and resolves to show them the clear difference in their skills. Loki feels relieved when he notices the others have backed off, and he decides to retrieve his basket. He calmly imagines the height, concentrates on his magic, and creates a long stone pillar about 15 meters tall that rises from the ground, lifting the basket up with it. The moment feels frightening, but the test succeeds. One stone platform consumes 26 MP, and Loki carefully notes the cost. He plans to track his magic use while creating pillars and retrieving his basket, then recover MP while moving. The idea of hunting more efficiently in the Roka Plains excites him, and a quiet smile appears. Loki lifts his sword with renewed confidence and pushes forward to continue the hunt. Loki feels very tired and realizes he has pushed himself too hard. Rhodey notices this and calmly tells him to leave the materials there for now, saying he will take care of them after finishing his own work. Loki feels relieved and hands everything over. Rhodey then points out that Loki is the reason an emergency quest was issued today. Loki feels surprised and asks him to check again. Rhodey explains that no other hunters reported anything unusual about the poison mice, and that the guild only reacted because Loki hunted so many of them by himself. Loki feels slightly troubled but understands. Rhodey confirms the results: A-rank poison mouse materials and 12-year mantises. Loki agrees and asks the guild to keep his rewards as usual. Rhodey then wonders if Loki has a bigger basket, noticing that he plans to keep hunting like this. He explains that larger baskets exist but are usually in use, and that carrying one would be hard for someone of Loki's size. Loki agrees and recalls how exhausting it was to run back and forth with his basket during the hunt. Rhodey points out that Loki's endurance is the reason he can bring back so many materials. The guild stays busy, and Rhodey urges everyone to stop staring and get back to work, clearly overwhelmed. Loki quietly thinks that he may need to order a custom basket. As Loki prepares to report to Amanda, Aiden appears and praises his work, then tells him to hand over the materials. Loki ignores him and continues toward Amanda. Aiden becomes annoyed. Amanda then brings up a serious issue and says that Aiden and his party claimed Loki agreed to join them. Loki immediately denies it. One of Aiden's party members insists that Loki left his basket behind and told them to do their best, so they believed he joined their party. Another member adds that if Loki joined them, then the rewards should be split evenly. Loki feels confused by their behavior and wonders why they do not back off after seeing the clear difference in ability, unlike the weapon shopkeeper. He briefly considers using force or relying on his strength, then decides he will not stay silent if they continue pushing. He calmly presses them for information instead. Loki asks them to state their hunter ranks and how much they earned today. Aiden reacts defensively and questions why he should answer, but it soon becomes clear that all 3 of them are F-rank hunters, and that their total earnings for the day are around 43,000 BKE. Aiden grows angry and snaps that favoritism does not give Amanda the right to reveal information, then insults her fitness as a receptionist. Amanda stays firm and points out that Aiden himself claimed Loki was part of his party and also demanded that the rewards be split equally. One of Aiden's party members mutters that they only need to hand Loki 5,000 BK and that he does not even care about it. Loki reacts coldly and wonders why anyone would form a party that brings only losses when he can earn 400,000 BK on his own. Aiden flares up and warns him to watch his mouth. Loki responds with a final warning, making it clear that if they keep following and harassing him, he will treat them as enemies. Aiden smiles mockingly and wonders what Loki could even do, claiming that enemies are no different from monsters and that anyone who sides with Loki would be treated the same. Loki answers sharply that people who harass and interfere with others are no different from goblins. Aiden scoffs in disbelief. The tension escalates, and Amanda urgently calls for someone to bring the Guildmaster. Aiden throws another insult, but before things spiral further, Guildmaster arrives, irritated by the disturbance, and orders everyone involved to come with him. The Guildmaster speaks calmly and explains that if someone wants something, they should not force it. He believes the better way is to make others feel that refusing is more troublesome than agreeing. Loki reflects that even though the rules say the guild does not step into disputes between hunters, he was already prepared to cause trouble if Aiden kept blocking his way. Aiden reacts angrily and cannot understand why the Guildmaster seems to support a strange kid like Loki. The Guildmaster responds that he is not taking sides. He explains that Loki came to him first, and he intends to judge the situation only after hearing both sides. Loki feels relieved that the Guildmaster is present. Aiden curses under his breath. The Guildmaster then adds that he wants to avoid any situation where someone might die. Aiden laughs in disbelief and questions what that even means. The Guildmaster explains that if Loki and Aiden truly become enemies, the danger would not be limited to just the two of them. Many others could be dragged into the conflict. He admits this is only a worst-case scenario, but it is still a real risk. Aiden cannot accept this and scoffs, insisting that Loki is just a kid. The Guildmaster responds sharply and points out that this careless thinking is exactly why Aiden is still stuck at F rank. He explains that Aiden lacks a sense of danger. The amount of monster material Loki brings back in a single day is far from normal, and that alone clearly shows his strength. He questions whether Aiden even realizes that he is picking a fight with someone who is not ordinary. Loki listens in silence and feels unsettled. Hearing himself described as abnormal feels different when spoken aloud. He quietly wonders if this is why Yogo has been cautious around him from the very beginning. Aiden insists that they were never trying to make Loki their enemy. The Guildmaster responds by laying out the facts clearly. Aiden's group tried to force Loki into their party. When that failed, they moved to take his materials and then submitted a false report to the guild. From Yogov's perspective, those actions clearly point toward provoking a fight. Yogov steps forward and states that such behavior is unacceptable. He declares that Aiden has no future as a hunter and announces his permanent removal from the hunter registry under guild rules. Aiden reacts in shock and argues that nothing was actually stolen. Yogov remains firm and points out that this mercy exists only because the robbery was not completed. If it had been, the matter would have gone beyond the guild and into legal punishment. One of Aiden's party members panics and wonders what they are supposed to do now. Aiden admits that he never expected the situation to escalate this far. Yogov shows a final measure of restraint by offering to refer them to other kinds of work, and reminds them to be grateful they did not end up as slaves. Loki watches how quickly Yogov reaches such a clean resolution, and feels surprised by how efficiently everything is settled. When Yogov checks whether Loki accepts the outcome, Loki feels dissatisfied and considers the punishment far too soft. Loki acknowledges that the punishment they receive is understandable, even though it does not satisfy him, and he makes it clear that their expulsion concerns only them, not him. What truly matters to him is compensation for what he personally endured. He presses for an apology fee, treating it as a separate issue from their removal from the guild. Aiden panics and protests that they do not have that kind of money. He brings up his upcoming marriage and pleads for mercy. Loki remains unmoved and considers that none of this is his responsibility. From his view, they chose to take the risk without thinking about the consequences. He reflects that he is neither a hero nor a villain, but he believes that actions must carry weight. The people standing before him tried to take advantage of him and exploit his situation. In his eyes, they have not truly learned anything from what happened. He has encountered people like them before and believes they received what they deserved. This is not a game where mistakes can simply be reset. He wants them to carry lasting fear from this encounter so that even the thought of trying to rob him again will haunt them for the rest of their lives. The Guildmaster warns Loki that if he pushes them any further, they might snap. Loki feels no hesitation and accepts that outcome, thinking that if they come after him for revenge, he is ready. If they act like thieves, he will defeat them. If they act like criminals, he will kill them without regret. He admits that he hates them enough to want to kill them on the spot, but he restrains himself. Faced with his resolve, the three collapse in fear and apologize, offering all their money and equipment in exchange for mercy. The Guildmaster watches closely as Loki thanks him for handling the situation and offers compensation for the trouble he caused. When asked if this is his usual way of dealing with things, Loki admits it may seem extreme, but he cannot tolerate people who harm others without hesitation. The Guildmaster understands and reflects that it would be wiser for him to remain honest around Loki. He agrees to hold on to Loki's belongings for now and asks Amanda to carry them. Loki then requests that the potions be given to Zinc and the others instead, explaining that he owes them. Amanda finds him strange but agrees. The Guildmaster notes with interest that Loki cleared the Raka plains without even using a potion, and suggests it may be time to begin his R-rank assessment. Loki replies that even if he ranks up, he has no intention of going to Lu Forest yet. The Guildmaster approves of his caution and reminds him that trouble like this may happen again. Loki agrees, acknowledging the saying that those who stand out get targeted, but he makes it clear that he will not accept being crushed without fighting back, even as he tries not to draw too much attention. Guildmaster Yogav carefully hints that Loki comes from another world, but he clarifies that he holds no hostile intent, and only wants Loki to identify a certain recovered object. Loki grows wary, wondering what Yogav plans to use him for, especially when a commission fee of 1 million biki is offered. The amount feels overly generous and deepens his suspicion. Yogav treats it lightly, framing it as a bribe meant to win over someone who values his friends and leaves the choice to Loki. Curiosity wins out, and Loki agrees, deciding to take the next day off and meet at the guild when the noon bell rings. Afterward, Loki feels uneasy, sensing that Yogav is not someone he handles well. That moment is interrupted when the goddess of war, Regal, reaches out through celestial channeling, noting that Loki has not used the skill since their last encounter and expressing the goddess's regret over how they treated him. Loki acknowledges the message and resolves to be cautious with the skill, recalling the trouble it once caused, but also realizes the timing is good since he has questions of his own. Celestial channeling activates at level 2, allowing limited communication at a higher cost. Loki connects and introduces himself, only to be met first by Phelan, the goddess of fatality, whose cheerful tone unsettles him as she treats the exchange like entertainment. Sensing danger in her playful attitude, Loki pushes for a change, and Lysan, the goddess of commerce, takes over instead. Her calm and sharp presence immediately shifts the atmosphere. Loki understands that during channeling, his thoughts are fully readable, and he recognizes that dealing with someone as composed and perceptive as her may be far more challenging than before. Loki realizes that the goddesses can truly read his thoughts, which confirms his earlier suspicion. He sets that aside and focuses on his concern. For a long time, he should have met the conditions to use magic, yet he was unable to cast any spell until only a few days ago. From his point of view, nothing special happened to cause this change. He calmly wonders if there is a reason why his ability to use magic suddenly appeared and waits to understand what led to that moment. Loki confirms that his change happened the day after he visited the church. As the conversation continues, an idea takes shape. Magic in this world exists because spirits drift everywhere and lend their power in exchange for mana, which they treat as food. Loki imagines those spirits floating around unseen. He learns that until he came into contact with the goddesses, neither they nor the spirits could properly recognize him. Because spirits follow the gods who are the source of magic, his meeting with the goddesses likely allowed the spirits to finally notice him. That realization settles his long-standing doubt. He feels relieved now that the reason is clear and expresses quiet gratitude. With his curiosity growing, he turns his thoughts toward another goal. He wants an ability that allows him to store items in a separate space and freely take them in and out. The concept of an inventory or space-based magic comes to mind, something he recognizes from stories of other worlds. Before he can explore it further, the short time limit of the connection ends. Even so, Loki feels satisfied. Learning about spirits and space magic gives him valuable insight. As the connection fades, anticipation builds within him. With new knowledge and plans forming, he senses that his journey is finally beginning to move forward. At the same time, his awareness suddenly wavers, and his consciousness begins to fade. Morning comes right after the celestial channeling, and Loki feels unusually sleepy. He feels overwhelmed by the drowsiness and realizes he must have passed out. A lot happened the day before, but it does not feel like normal exhaustion. He wonders if something happened in the Iroka Plains, but there are no signs of poison or injury. His mana has not fully recovered, yet that alone does not seem enough to explain it. As he thinks it through, a clear pattern forms. Since learning magic, he has built a habit of using up most of his mana before sleeping to gain experience. He did the same last night. After that, he used celestial channeling, which required a large amount of mana. At level 9, he normally would not have had enough. The short sword from Pisa allowed him to increase his maximum mana just by equipping it. He used that extra mana to activate the skill. After the channeling ended, the extra mana disappeared when the effect wore off. The conclusion becomes obvious to him. His body collapsed because of complete mana depletion. Loki cannot be completely certain, but he recognizes the situation as a common rule in fantasy worlds. He believes he simply passed out from running out of mana. That realization makes him cautious. Losing consciousness during a hunt would almost certainly lead to death. Depending on how this world works, he even wonders if such a state could already count as dying. He shakes off the thought and forces himself to refocus. Today will be busy. Before heading to Yogov's place, he needs to retrieve the confiscated items from yesterday. He has already contacted Paisa-san and arranged an appraisal, so he plans to finish it quickly. At Paisa-san's shop, murmurs spread as people recognize him. They notice the gear he carries and realize it once belonged to Aden and the others who lost their hunter status. Surprise grows. Some cannot believe a child could strip them of everything. Others warn that underestimating him would lead to the same fate. Loki observes this quietly and feels no surprise. Just like in games, standing out always attracts gossip. That gossip slowly rots into envy and resentment, and eventually turns into open hostility. He remembers players who quit because they could not endure that pressure, and he feels it was a waste of their effort and passion. As long as the guild continues to function fairly, the opinions and jealousy of other hunters no longer matter to him. Loki feels that dealing with random people is a waste of time, which is why being alone feels comfortable to him. His thoughts break when the 3 kids call out to him. May rushes over with the others and shares that her mother met Amanda the night before. Knowing that Loki usually leaves early to hunt, they hurried to catch him and express their gratitude. Their thanks focus on the potion he gave them. Loki responds with a gentle smile, feeling their sincerity. Pota eagerly steps forward and offers help as well, suggesting they carry his things. The scene shifts to the church. Loki arrives calmly, feeling that his next step is an audience with the goddesses. He offers a morning prayer and leaves an offering as an apology for what happened during the class selection. Maurice reacts warmly and does not hold anything against him, so Loki treats it as his offering for the day and hopes to spend more time in prayer. As he focuses, the presence of the goddesses responds and he opens his eyes. For the first time, he faces them directly. Phelan, the goddess of fatality, reveals herself, followed by Firil, the goddess of life, and Liste, the goddess of commerce. Despite their busy roles, they acknowledge his visit. Loki feels quietly overwhelmed, struck by how beautiful they are, and realizes he should have expected this after meeting the others before. In the church space, Loki faces the 3 goddesses directly. Phelan radiates charm with a bright, playful presence. Firil carries a deep warmth that feels gentle and reassuring, and Leste stands with calm elegance and sharp intelligence. Loki feels overwhelmed and instinctively turns his face away from Firil, thinking it is almost too much to take in, only to realize that his thoughts are being heard clearly. The goddesses firmly make it clear that returning home is not an option, then guide him to sit, revealing that this place feels subtly different, as if it did not exist before. Feline reflects on how remarkable it is that Loki confronted Regal and Rhea and survived, noting that those 2 were chosen precisely because they were suited to handling unknown threats. She acknowledges that she understands his circumstances and does not hold his actions against him. What matters now is that he does not possess any power capable of destroying the world, and their intention is simply to coexist peacefully with him. Even so, Feline notes that reading his soul directly still proves difficult, just as Rhea observed. Loki realizes that he is present only in soul form, while his body remains behind, and Phelan calmly confirms this, explaining that his soul was separated temporarily because his physical body cannot be brought here. She reassures him that his body is protected by space-time magic, causing time to move extremely slowly there. Loki recognizes this as another kind of ability and reflects that goddesses truly feel like beings beyond normal limits. though the idea that even such powers function as skills sparks his curiosity. Sensing this interest, Firil gently turns the focus back to him, expressing a desire to hear Loki's story as well. Sharing the same understanding, Firil invites Loki Khan to raise any curiosity he holds. Loki's attention settles on the idea of exclusive and special skills, and the thought of longevity surfaces as something that gives life its meaning. The world leaves him genuinely impressed, and even the system reflects his quiet satisfaction, feeling like a careful creation shaped by divine hands. Phelan views this as a wondrous result of the god's work, while Lista calmly reminds him that the world remains under the management of Ferza Sama. That name stirs unease within Loki. Doubt rises as he reflects on whether such deep trust is truly wise, shaped by his own poor first impression. Memories surface of Rhea mentioning that this world was once abandoned, and even though some misunderstandings have already been cleared, uncertainty lingers. Loki reflects that blind faith in a god has never ended well in his experience, and the thought leaves him quietly unsettled. Phelan reflects that even if Ferza-sama hides certain intentions, the role of the goddesses remains unchanged, as they continue observing and guiding the world toward a better future while maintaining the status quo. Liste adds that interference with the lower world is forbidden, and Loki quietly realizes that no matter how people below feel, nothing can easily change. He senses Lista noticing his concern, and her reaction makes him uneasy, as he is still uncomfortable with his thoughts being read. Phelan and the others agree that it is time for Loki to learn more, but curiosity turns toward his past world. Earth comes up, and recognition settles among the goddesses. Earth exists as one of the worlds managed by Ferza-sama, and stands as his greatest success, which stirs a hint of envy. That contrast leads Loki to wonder about the fate of this world. Phelan then reveals the core issue. This world has grown too dependent on magic and skills, causing its civilization to stagnate and slowly head toward decline. To prevent that future, the goddesses summon souls from Earth, seeking the knowledge and wisdom of a more advanced civilization. The truth becomes clear to Loki as he connects it to the hero Takuya, realizing that his role in spreading Earth's knowledge explains why he was granted so many abilities, and the larger purpose behind these summoning finally comes into focus. Loki reflects that, although many things are still unclear, he finally understands where the strange feelings inside him came from. A new doubt rises as he wonders about his own place in this plan, since he does not possess the knowledge this world seeks. He accepts that he has no right to resent someone like Takuya receiving overwhelming power, because he himself has lived freely without understanding the intentions of the corn-headed god. He realizes that he may have relied too much on the goddesses simply because of their kindness, and he admits that this reliance feels wrong. With that awareness, he opens himself honestly and seeks clarity. Liste turns the question back to him, guiding his thoughts inward, and Loki is left facing the quiet but heavy question of how he should live from now on. Gaming once fills Loki's entire world. After his family cast him aside and reality forces itself on him, he realizes he holds no real titles or achievements of his own. Even though this world seeks the knowledge of Earth's civilization, he feels empty because he has never created anything with his own hands. His life as a shut-in, spent almost entirely on games, weighs heavily on him now. Confusion and doubt settle in as he wonders what the icon-headed being truly expects from someone like him. Regal reassures Loki that he does not need to worry so much. She explains that even when the goddesses speak about improving the level of civilization in this world, Loki is already contributing simply by existing and bringing the knowledge of another world with him. Because of that, she believes he should first enjoy his new life without pressure. Phelan agrees and adds that helping this world does not need to be his main goal. She suggests treating it as a side task while he lives freely, hoping only that he will leave behind something that only he can do. She reminds him that everyone has strengths and weaknesses, and that it would be unreasonable to demand too much from someone who was brought here against his will. Loki pauses at the idea that there are things only he can do. Regal then gently takes his hand and tells him that Earthlings themselves are living legacies, and that his life alone already has value. At that moment, Listy steps forward and offers her support, promising to help him whenever he feels uncertain about how to live. The other goddesses react with playful suspicion and tease her for being too forward. Listy firmly responds that, as the goddess of commerce and someone knowledgeable about other worlds, she is the most suitable person to consult. Loki feels relieved by her words, He thanks them sincerely and admits that he may not be capable of great things, but he is willing to help in any way he can. The scene shifts as Loki recalls how panicking always made things worse for him, even back on Earth, and he decides to move forward calmly, one step at a time. He goes to the guild and informs Amanda that he has come at the Guildmaster's request. Amanda acknowledges this and goes to call him, asking Loki to wait. Nearby, a few people quietly talk among themselves, wondering why the Guildmaster would personally summon a child, and questioning who Loki is. Loki notices the uneasy atmosphere and feels uncomfortable but not surprised. Soon after, the Guildmaster appears and calmly notes that the current attention will settle down in time. The Guildmaster remarks that since the rumors have already spread, no one will interfere with Loki anymore, and Loki agrees. After apologizing for the delay, the Guildmaster invites him inside. Loki notices the messy back area and understands that this private setting is intentional. Amanda lights the way as they move deeper. The Guildmaster stresses that what follows must remain secret. They enter a hidden underground room, a place meant to keep important matters out of sight. He explains that the items inside were found 6 years ago by hunters in the Pomera Great Forest, first handled by Amanda and then secured by him. When asked, Loki immediately recognizes them as a sneaker, a wristwatch, and a smartphone, objects that should only exist on Earth. He confirms that these appear to be the only ones discovered so far. As Loki examines them, the Guildmaster expects an explanation in return. Amanda adds that she only learned about this that morning and was instructed to watch carefully for anyone connected to relics like these. Amanda admits that she never expected Loki to be from another world, and reassures him that only she knows this truth. The Guildmaster adds that the nation's leaders already know about the relics, yet he chooses not to report anything about Loki. He reflects that although the Hunters Guild claims independence, it still answers to the country, and discoveries like these relics would naturally cause unrest. Loki agrees and wonders where to begin, then looks at one item and feels unsure how to describe its purpose. He realizes the problem is not understanding it himself, but finding words others would grasp. As one relic continues to deteriorate, the Guildmaster feels frustration and accepts that recreating it may be impossible. Loki calmly concludes that this goal should be abandoned. He reflects that even experts from his world could not rebuild it here. The rules of this world differ too greatly. Even starting from nothing, it could take a genius 1,000 years. The Guildmaster grows overwhelmed and wonders what kind of world Loki came from. Loki explains that his world has no magic or skills. Instead, it advances through study, observation, and experiments, allowing people to understand nature step by step. Loki notes that even if the smartphone cannot be recreated, the other items may still be possible. He points out that clocks already exist in this world. This one uses batteries, but noble families own similar devices that work with wind-up mechanisms. He then brings up pocket watches, which exist but remain rare and mostly owned by royalty. He reflects that wrapping a small watch in a leather strap would create something close to the relic. He also looks at the sneakers and observes that they are made for running. Even with different materials, carefully measuring the inside could lead to shoes that feel far more comfortable to wear. The Guildmaster agrees and feels grateful for the insight. He encourages Loki to try the items himself. Loki admits he speaks without expert knowledge, yet he notices how light they feel. The Guildmaster quietly realizes that showing the relics was meant to uncover their purpose and design. He reflects that progress in this world does not rely only on the goddesses. Human effort also plays an important role. Loki thinks there may be something only he can do. He wonders if the Guildmaster would like to see tools from his original world that he still has. At the guild reception, he notices Amanda is not there. The Guildmaster appears and mentions that Amanda went shopping after being busy all day, and likely had no time to eat. Loki feels it is a good chance, and wonders if he can take a quick look before she returns. The Guildmaster agrees and they move forward. Loki shows what he has and notes that this is roughly everything. The Guildmaster reacts with clear surprise, realizing he is seeing a working object with his own eyes. He recognizes it as a second relic, a level of national treasure. Loki grows curious, and the Guildmaster clarifies that items clearly foreign to this country are classified that way. He recalls that when the relic was first discovered, a different Guildmaster was in charge, and because he already had some knowledge about relics, he was assigned to this position. His familiarity with the subject shows, and his mood seems livelier than usual. Loki then presents another item, a flashlight that still functions. The Guildmaster is taken aback and wonders if light magic exists in Loki's original world. Loki dismisses that idea and reflects that it works through batteries and LEDs, though he agrees that magic in this world could likely imitate the result. Amanda returns and apologizes for the wait, mentioning that she brought many tasty items. She is startled when she notices Loki and reacts with surprise. Loki addresses her respectfully and brings the discussion back on track. He acknowledges that the goal is to recreate tools from another world, but he makes it clear that items like smartphones, batteries, and plastic-based objects depend on advanced technology and cannot be reproduced here. With that in mind, he introduces something different. He presents paper as a simple and practical item that could realistically be recreated in this world and still be very useful. Amanda mentions that paper books already exist in Bizarre, but they are very rare. The Guildmaster understands and considers the idea of recreating paper, producing it in large amounts and spreading it to common people, while noting that the real challenge lies in the method. Loki reassures them and recalls that he made paper when he was about 7 years old, which leaves both of them surprised. He reflects that he did not truly invent it back then, but reshaped simple materials by breaking them down, mixing them with water, removing moisture, and letting them dry. From his view, as long as substitute materials exist, even a child could create something similar. Amanda realizes that replacing wooden boards with paper would greatly simplify how information is recorded and managed. The Guildmaster imagines information spreading more widely and senses that the world itself would begin to change, so he decides to move forward right away. He urges Loki to share what he knows and guide them through the process of making paper. Loki agrees without hesitation. The Guildmaster feels grateful and considers offering an extra reward beyond the original request, but Loki declines, feeling that witnessing this progress is reward enough. The Guildmaster still feels unsatisfied and insists on giving something in return. He then shifts the topic to the Demon King's subjugation chronicle and reflects on the hero Takuya. Loki recognizes the name and connects him to otherworlders like himself, which helps him understand the situation more clearly. He then wonders aloud whether the Guildmaster wants to know about other people from another world who exist in this one.
Here I am, know it's been